Move these tables down so that they're flush. Yep, yeah, down. Perfect, and then the other way.
Charlie, you have a second.
Yes.
Okay. Can I write on that? That's fine.
Hi, Gabriel. Jan, it's on this side. No, it's not on this side. Big? Well, your student fees.
This one I is.
We're good, as long as we got one. I want to make sure people can see.
Huh?
And that's the problem.
What are you?
I think it's all we got. No, I need to know why you think it's a problem. Otherwise, Yep.
Someone write it.
Thanks. I'll make sure.
All right, this one's now on.
There it goes.
I think right away this week was like,
Good.
like,
I had them lost for months. Just tracking
how's
it
your
down.
meeting?
But I'd like it if you thought.
Look sharp, man.
Thank you.
Oh, that's really good too.
And I'm missing Abby Rising.
When I saw your email, I.
Nope, she's right here. I'm talking to him.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm not gonna.
All right, folks. Stand by if possible. We appreciate it.
Okay, it's 6:59. You're good. You guys supposed to be over here.
Oh, wait. Oh, wow, that's great. I had to, I was saying, I was like watching her we're seeing. Look at that.
Max, how you doing?
That's good.
Good.
Like your alcohol.
Weird.
You good? With that?
Yeah. We're not going to have those. That part is tonight? What do you mean? I thought we just decided it's not tonight.
It's new, so you might have to make sure
Pippin today, actually. We're like holiday by Sunday. It's like, hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Jenny, what's your name too?
No, they were playing Warhawks. Rock. We played, we were playing Wisconsin 64.
yeah, and I have two shirts.
Never played. Crazy Train. And you get to do the.
Is that for
Yep, we're playing for basketball games. Every basketball game, we will play. Yeah, you play the.
I don't need an answer. No.
Oh, you got it right next to the base.
And the next one after that is gonna be,
And I guess what I'm trying to and then so next year you'll see me.
Tonight, the introduction.
So next time, imagine if I wear a purple blazer.
Okay.
And did I have like a purple suit though?
Yeah.
You can't change it unless we'll change it on the floor.
over?
Wait, Isaiah, you wear glasses?
Only when I'm seeing you now.
You can.
Everyone get all the handouts. There was a lot of trees that were slightly scenic. We start making it easier on your fingers.
We can always.
You can always do that.
Why?
Yeah.
So you're getting a doctoral?
Oh, yeah, no, next week it's gonna be, we went over it all last week. What do we think? That's what I'm
I think just whether it or just whether
Just to kind of see how it goes. I don't think that's necessary. You might say this is what we requested. You could say you talked to the speaker and you plan on making and justify a motion next week. Or I think that would be appropriate. Alright?
What's with the allocation?
that's what we allocated.
Oh.
So the requested.
So y'all don't have to stay the whole time. It's gonna be a pretty long day. It's our budget season. So we are on the intros of our budget. Do not feel at all like you have to stay the whole time. Which one of y'all are doing student issues and concerns, testimony, kind of stuff? Okay, 2, 3, 4. Who do we got? Can I see hands for them? You? You? And you? And the 2 of you. Okay. For those of you who I don't know, my name's Isaiah Wilson. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining us today. Here is a copy of our agenda. If you want, you can pass it down. We've slayed a lot of trees tonight, but you're welcome to have a copy for yourselves. In that little box where it says student issues and concerns, y'all are welcome to stand up. You'll get 3 minutes uninterrupted to go over the entire thing. After that, we can move on to whoever else might want to go. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. Nail your spot. Timing.
Sadie, are you okay with me?
When there wasn't something there, oh, it sucks, but they're having a hard time. That should help other students.
Time 7:05, I call this session of the Whitewater Student Government to order. If you're able, please rise alongside me and do your second pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Senator Carter,
Present.
Senator Janetti,
Present.
Senator Gile,
Present.
Senator Lang,
Present.
Senator Liebert,
Present.
Senator Marty,
Present.
Senator Major,
Present.
Senator Patrica, Senator Purnell,
Present.
Senator Reber, Senator Reyes, Senator Schwarzhandel,
Present.
Senator Thompson, Senator Vanderhyde,
Present.
Senator Wheaton,
Present.
Speaker Wilson.
Present. Wonderful. With that, we will move right into special orders, starting with item A, appointment of one Drumlin district seat. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for a Drumlin district seat? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move to the appointment of 2 Esker district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for an Esker district seat? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move to the appointment of 4 off-campus district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for an off-campus district seat? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the appointment of 2 Rock County district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for a Rock County district seat? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move into the appointment of 2 at-large district seats. Is there anyone in the gallery tonight interested in running for an at-large district seat? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we'll move into guest speakers, of which we have none. So we will be right into the approval of the agenda and minutes, starting with the minutes from November 10th, 2025. Can I get a motion? Senator Martin.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Seconded by Senator Majors. Can I get a voice vote?
Acclamation.
Any opposed? Once, twice. Seeing none. With that, the minutes from November 10th, 2025. What?
Yes.
With that, the agenda from November 17th, 2025 has been approved unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from November 10th, 2025? Senator Reed.
Motion approved.
Seconded by Senator Carter. Can I need a voice vote?
Acclamation.
Any opposed? Going once, going twice, seeing none. With that, the minutes from November 10th, 2025 have been approved unanimously. With that, we are on to student issues and concerns. Are there any student issues and concerns in the gallery tonight? Wonderful. If there's anyone going up together, y'all can choose which order you'd like to go. But if you go up together to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to speak uninterrupted. If you go up alone, you'll have 3 minutes to speak uninterrupted. Does that make sense? So stagger if you're staggered. If you have a story of 2, you're welcome to come up. Whoever would like to go first, you can raise your hand now. You? Yeah? Come on up to the podium. Just as a little review for everyone in the room tonight, under this section, no formal action will be taken. Although issues raised may become part of a future agenda, participants are allotted a 3-minute speaking period. This section may not discuss topics on the agenda. However, participants are welcome to speak to the agenda items as they appear in subsequent sections. Your time will begin when you're ready, Jim.
Alright, so we are with LIT, it stands for Leaders United Transformation. It is an organization on college campuses that focuses on supporting marginalized communities, such as Black and brown students on college campuses. We spoke last week about the Hate and Bias Support Forum. We put it on the agenda, we'll send an email out. We have not received a response, unfortunately. So it has not been added to the agenda. If we could get that process going, that would be appreciated. Basically, to recap on the Hate and Bias Support Forum, we just want to make campuses such as Whitewater more inclusive, and we want to be able to help students who go through things that they have a support system that they can go to that works. So there are changes we would like to make to the Hate and Bias Support Forum in order to help students out. These changes have been made at other UW campuses. This isn't anything like completely new. So yeah, we just want to help students out.
So our primary focus is to help out the marginalized communities on campus, and next up speaking after us, we have testimonies from members of our chapter here at Whitewater to share their experiences and their stories on campus to give a further reason of why we need to make these changes and why they're urgent and they need to happen as soon as possible. That's all we have.
Thank you very much. Whoever would like to go next can come up to the podium now.
Hello everyone, I'm Angela Diego. I'm a sophomore here at UW Whitewater.
My name is Emiliana Smith. I also am a sophomore.
So I'm here sharing my testimony about a racial experience that happened this past summer. One of my track teammates actually posted something on social media which resembled blackface with a filter. Now immediately I was shocked, I was disappointed, I had a lot of feelings obviously, and I had to think about the ways that I could go about resolving this issue with my teammate. So first I decided that it would be best to go to the hate and bias incident reporting system, but what I found was that it was very inaccessible, it was hard to get through, it was hard to manage figuring out how to make a report. So then I had to go through the struggle of figuring out who to email, and I had to go through a lot of issues with finding dean's office emails and trying to figure out how to get something set up so that accountability could be had for this student. The only thing that led from that was an optional conversation, and it was for a restorative justice conversation. This led to just not a very productive conversation in my opinion. I feel that I was in a room with 2 people that did not look like me, along with the person that inflicted this upon me, so I felt very isolated in that situation. I also felt that if that student had decided that she wanted to disagree to having this conversation, that no accountability would be had and that no action would have been taken. So I feel that our school as a whole, as a school that preaches for inclusivity and diversity, should have some sort of standard procedure when things like this happen, especially as a PWI. In addition to that, I also feel that the site for bias and incidents should be back up, running, and accessible to students. So that's all I have.
Hi. So for my situation, my testimony is going to be about something that happened to me on my floor where I lay my head. So as I was going to a friend's room, I heard from the door, the room across, which is occupied by 2 white males, a derogatory term that is used against my kind of people. And I at first I was very angry and agitated. I didn't know what else to do, so I went up, I knocked on the door, and I wanted to ask them to apologize for the words that they said, because as a black woman here, where there are the ratio from non-POC to people like me is about 20 to 1, I would say. It's really bad, so I asked my friend here, what could I do, because I didn't know what else to do. She has had a prior situation with the person on the track team, so she told me to also try the Hayden bias report system. Once again, it was also down. So the first thing I did was go to my RA. Well, the second thing I did was go to my RA, and he helped me report it to the housing system, and they called me, they emailed me. We talked about it, but they told me there was nothing that they could do for us, because they said we couldn't get a apology or anything like that, because it was, in their words, freedom of speech, and that since they didn't say it to me, that it wasn't valid enough for them to like take action. And I was really hurt by that, and I still see these men every day in the hallways with as I'm going to class, from class, showering, and I feel kind of vulnerable around these people. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for filling. Is there any other students in concern? Welcome. Your time will begin whenever you start to speak.
Good evening. My name is Trish Henson, and I'm a very involved member on this campus. I'm sorry if you guys can't see me back there. I'm approximately 5 feet. That being, just because I am short does not mean I do not have a powerful voice. On my very first day here at Whitewater campus, I had an introduction to theater class, which was under the lab. And those classes typically go, as you may, your hour-long classes, you're a freshman, you're white, I don't get this. And I had an interaction with a teacher that told me that if I wanted to stay in her class, that I needed to wear a do-rag and a bonnet for safety concerns regarding my fro, which is my natural hair and very curly. She told me that I could not see in her class because she knew that people that grew their hair out like mine couldn't see. But I knew that I walked to class that morning, I knew that I found that door, and I knew that I walked into that classroom with my eyes and my 20/20 vision. That was my first ever incidence of discrimination on campus, be that either overt or covert, but whatever it may be, it was something that impacted me. And that was my very first instance here at Whitewater. There was no hate to bias form informed to me. There was no person to go up to, because who do you go up to when you have absolutely no idea where to go? You have absolutely no idea where your dormitory is, or even where your next class is. So I decided to keep going to that class. I got an apology from the student teacher at the time. I got a somewhat apology of, she doesn't really mean that. She doesn't know that that's offensive. But you claim to me that you've been teaching for 15 years, and on that 15 years you haven't seen faces like mine. Here at this Whitewater campus, apparently, Black students make up 10% of campus. That is at least, again, 120 students. And if there is 120 students, and you've had so many over the years, there should not be any reason why you do not have training for people like me. My second instance came this year, again, on my first day at my internship here on campus. And if I had a nickel for every time that there was a first day on campus where I got marginalized or discriminated because of who I looked like and who I claimed to be, I'd have 2 nickels. And that's funny in retrospect, but looking at the fact that it's a negative experience, those things aren't 2 fun nickels to have. I went about my day doing my job, my duties of hanging the posters in the Center of the Arts, and I got stopped and I got told that I couldn't hang posters there, even though each single board is labeled college-approved posters and student-approved posters and music-approved posters, and last time I checked I could read. And I was told that I couldn't do that, and I told her, hey, sorry, I just work here, and she said, stop getting aggressive with me. Now, again, hello, people in the back. I am a 5'1" woman with a voice, yes, but not a very loud one. In fact, I have a very soft-spoken voice, to the fact that people often tell me to speak up for myself, for others, and especially on the phone conversations when my phone gives out, and I can assure you guys that I was not yelling or raising my voice. When you do decide to enact action to defend yourself, automatically you get put in this aggressive position, you get put as this person of negative face against people because they feel that their power has been thwarted over you when they come to you with aggression. And so I had to talk to the dean of students of that specific building, all for doing the thing that I was paid for on the clock. I was instructed to fill out a hate to bias form then, and no repercussions came with that now. So I'm here to you, asking you, pleading with you. Although I can speak up for myself, and although I take action in standing up and speaking for myself here today, my action means nothing with your inaction. If you guys choose to not push this form, incidents like this will happen to people like me over and over and time again. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other student issues and concerns? You're welcome up to the podium. Your time will start when you give us
Good evening, my name is Project Brown. I had two occurrences last year. The first one was during the fall semester of 2024. So I was on my way to my car trying to get my bowling balls. I was gonna come back to the UC bowl a little bit. And as I'm walking to my car, I witnessed a guy, he's recording me, and he's trying to make it not so obvious, but I can see it within his camera that he's recording me. And so he's talking within the camera, but I can't really hear what he's saying. And as I get closer, I can see, or I can hear he's saying like, oh, he's getting aggressive, he's coming towards me, things like that. So then he runs away as I get closer. But I'm not trying to come towards him, I'm trying to come towards my car. And so as I'm still walking to the parking lot, he's still recording me, he keeps running, he runs further. And then he witnesses me one time, he stops, he recorded me for a good 10 seconds, then he runs off again. So at that point, I was a little confused, not gonna say I'm not used to microaggression, but at the same time, it's not something that people should have to witness just trying to go to their car. So the first thing I do, I contact one of my advisors, John Dominguez, and he said to report it on the hate to bias form. So he sends me a link for that. I try to do everything. I'm telling him it's pretty difficult, but he walks me through it. Next thing I know, nothing happens. I tell him that there's cameras around the building. It was around the nylons, or not nylons, it was around the TUD building. And I know that there's cameras on the outside of TUD. I know that there's cameras by the parking lot of Lot 19. So I would figure they would at least go through some cameras, maybe, but I guess not. And then another occurrence was when my roommate and I, we were walking back from the roofs, and we were going back to our building in Wills. This was during the spring semester. And 5 young white men walk up to us after they just got done talking to a different black male. And they say, hey, can we rub you guys' head? They didn't let us pet their dog over there. We're like, what does patting our head have to do with rubbing a dog? They said, well, it'd be pretty much the same thing. And then they laugh off. And then considering that it's 5 of them and 2 of us, it wasn't much for us to do, but even then we still reported on the hate to bias form. There were still a lot of different witnesses that saw that, and they were still looking at them very weirdly, but they didn't do anything as they heard what we heard as well. And so, I mean, yeah, we reported on the hate to bias form, no actions were took, didn't see any repercussions, emailed the same director, nothing happened. He said he was gonna try to make things happen, which he did, I know he did. I was in the emails with him, but still nothing would happen as far as any repercussions or anything with the hate to bias form, nor making it easier to report anything. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any other student issues and concerns in the gallery? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, thank you all so much for coming. If you'd be willing, read the minutes when they come out. I'd like to chat. I'm going to chat a little bit in my report about some of the phone calls I had last night, and also how we can work together in the future. So, thank you all so much for coming. Last call, are there any other student issues and concerns in the gallery? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, with that, we will move on to reports, starting with external committee reports. We'll start with the Chancellor's Committee on Disability Concerns.
I'll see you at the meeting coming up.
Alrighty.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. We met on November 7th. We called the order one. For updates, CSD, again, I had mentioned last time and brought it up again. New disability skill coordinator has been hired, new hire for alternative testing center. More proctors are needed to support testing. I mentioned this last time. If you know anybody, I mean anybody, who would be interested in volunteering to help out proctor tests for people who are taking advantage of their IEP, please have them go over to the CSD department office over in the Anderson Library so that they can get trained and they can be proctors to help administer tests for people who are taking advantage of their IEP. Improved funding for study abroad accommodations is necessary. Ideally would be shared expense with other funding sources aside from CSD. Health Center men's wheelchair basketball tournament is November 21st through the 22nd. Vaccinations are available for faculty and students. University housing elevator was repaired in Podium Hall. Air conditioning accommodations are being investigated to improve accessibility. Federal guidelines for emotional support animals have been removed. Consideration has been given for creating guidelines for UW-Whitewater. And COEPS, disability advocacy presentation that was given. No new updates for LMS, COBE, College of Arts and Communication, Integrated Studies, Library, Therapy Dogs for Halloween visits were a great time, and then we adjourned that day. So it was a very fast day, mostly no new updates from me. So, open to questions.
Are there any questions for Senator Lieber? Senator Marty?
What time do I have to be there for wheelchair basketball?
Doesn't have a time, it just has a date. I don't, if anybody else might know where.
What org or what department's putting that on?
Or sports. I'll look it up and connect and share in my report.
Are there any other questions for Senator Lieber? Seeing none, we'll go on to the report of the Campaign Committee on Veterans and Service Members' Success.
Bless you. Bless you. This is
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So the committee met on November 5th at 2 o'clock over WebEx. There we discussed like last minute planning for Veterans Week, which at this moment I would actually like to take some time to quickly thank a few people. I'd like to personally thank President Bradley, Advisor Billigan, and Logan Carter for showing up to the Veterans Day ceremony. And I'd also like to thank Logan and Bradley for also showing up to the bowling event we held on last week Monday. So we discussed last minute planning for Veterans Week, and then we also discussed the potential move of the Veterans Lounge. Right now there are 3 options. As discussed in my last report, the one-stop option is a very unfavorable option that has been met with a lot of criticism, not just the committee, but also veteran students. The second option that we discussed was the basement of the Anderson Library over by the IT department, where there is approximately 30 cubicles in the basement and only 3 of them are used. Then the last one that was brought in as like a throwaway was the basement of McCutcheon Hall, where the Royal Purple used to have their printing area.
And Mr. Speaker, pending any questions, I conclude my report.
Any questions? Once, going twice, seeing none, thank you very much. With that, we will move on to Rock County Advisory.
Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. The Warwick Dining Advisory Committee met on Friday, November 14th in UC 68, and here are the updates that was provided to me and Associate Director Rosequist, who also was in attendance. Wednesday, November 26th, meal plans will end after a lunch period for Thanksgiving break and will resume on Sunday, November 30th at lunch. If you plan on staying here over Thanksgiving break, there will be pre-made meals for free for students. It will be one per person per day, and will be at the UC Market on Friday the 28th and Saturday the 29th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The best end of the semester event is happening again this semester. Late night breakfast will be Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 at 10 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. in Esker Dining Hall. It is free for all students, so please bring your friends and please bring your hot cards so that way they can swipe you in. Some concerns we had: students want burger toppings and chicken sandwiches in the dub. We listened to concerns on the survey that we take every week. We discussed the gluten-free / soy milk fridge in Drumlin Dining Hall. There will be a food policy sign going up in the dining halls, as folks have been filling their backpacks with fruit. So just a reminder is all you care to eat at the dining halls. You cannot bring food out unless it's one piece of fruit or an ice cream cone. Also, when you are in the dining halls, no personal water bottles at the drink machines, as dining has had issues with students filling up milk jugs. So please, no personal water bottles. And then on a somber note, this will be the last Dining Advisory Committee in person for the semester, which means this will be my last ever dining report. I want to thank you all for letting me represent the Senate on this committee. It was an honor to bring up your concerns and that to the Dining Committee. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Senator Purnell?
Why is it that meal plans are pausing over Thanksgiving break?
That is a really good question, and it's because the meal plans aren't during those breaks. It's during the academic year. So when the school is shut down, the meal plan is shut down. If that's what I can send over advice about it.
Oh, great. You do it.
I'm just gonna add the cost of keeping the dining halls open compared to the very small amount of students who are able to break is a lot, which is why they try to find those other options. There's also the workout pantry is available for students.
Follow-up?
Could a future,
Is there follow-up? Senator Purnell?
Yes. What are the hours going to look like for the eating establishments here, including the
So the eating establishments, everything will be closed on Thursday. I believe they said Lily's will be open on Friday and then also, like I just said in my report, the UC Market will be open from 10 to 2 to grab those pre-made grab and go. There's 25 meals made, so it's first come, first serve. I believe they said it's pasta and that, so just that will also be open. I believe on Dine on Campus, there is also that. I did forget to add one thing, and I'll add it real fast. The Willie's Present down in Ike's, that voting opens soon. So if you don't know what that is, that's like noodles, tacos, baked potatoes. They want to hear what y'all want down in Ike's for lunch. So
Senator Martin.
Could a future idea is during the winter breaks and spring breaks, could we possibly give discounts? Could stores give discounts, or like use like we pay for the dining dollars and then we pay for an extra option to use grocery stores at Aldi for the or something like that?
So I will say this, it would, if you want your meal plans to rise, then yes, we can add that option, but if you don't want your meal plans to rise, then we have to keep it the same way. I can let Advisor Bogan speak more on that.
I think it's a good answer from Senator Carter, except to say that there are some establishments that take purple points. So if you add those, if it's part of your meal plan, you can use those. But the whole reason why the shift with the fall break or whatever, Thanksgiving break, right, is that all of those number of service dates are established in the contract ahead of time. And so there is some leeway, but this is part of that contract. Those conversations can happen with Angela Meldonian and Tess Walker if that's something that you want to bring back to the dining committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it comes to Willie Presents, is it true that the new thing that's voted on will replace the baked potato bar?
That is 100% correct. So, a couple of years ago, it was noodles, and I've heard people want the noodles back. So if you want noodles, vote noodles. If you want tacos, vote tacos. And if you want to vote for the other options that they bring up, vote for the other options.
Senator Thompson.
So for the meals over Thanksgiving, is there going to be any priority towards like maybe foreign exchange students since they might not have anywhere to go?
That is a good question. I have not heard anything about that. All they said, it's first come, first serve, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. that Friday, that Saturday, a break. So.
Any other questions? Once?
Oh, over here.
Is it true that historically in the lead up to Thanksgiving break, fall break, that the Warhawk Country usually has meal kits and options available for students to prepare for break if they're going to be here for break?
That is very true. I have, as a student on this campus, I have used the Warhawk Pantry and it has been very beneficial for me. So if you don't know where that's at, it's at the very bottom of Drumlin. Just go past Herbs and Gerbs and you'll be right there.
Oh, my bad.
Any other questions? Once, twice, seeing none. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Logan, for your Warhawk Dining report. We appreciate it. With that, we'll move on to internal committee reports, starting with communications.
Okay, it's been a bit. So we met a couple times in the previous weeks, and we filmed some TikToks to grow our page following, and we plan on filming some more with some directors. And we're hoping to get more followers, but that's about sums it up. So I go to questions.
Any questions? Once, twice, seeing none. Wonderful. With that, we'll move on to student affairs. Welcome back, Senator Carter.
Golly. No. This guy stopped talking. No, I'm joking. Good evening, Senators. The Student Affairs Committee met on November 11th at 8 a.m. in UC 127. And here are our updates. Some student issues and concerns. Warhawk Dining. The vending machines and hire was out for 3 weeks in a row. As of Thursday, it has been restocked. Students brought up the concern about reusable containers in the roost area. For housing, heating in Lee is insufficient for specific rooms, and shower tile on the ceiling of Wells West 5th floor rooms are cracking. For UHCS, there's no concerns, but I heard that you could get your flu shot. I also heard, it's my favorite 4-letter F word. Yeah, that's free. I don't know what y'all were thinking, but it's free. Free. Police and safety, there was a whiteboard note that said that was a complaint that police are weirdos, so that's a new one. The young, during NATS, there was a WASP issue on the Terrence, I believe, if that's what FYT stands for. And then Director Smith's updates, they were using this past week to get back on track. And then Associate Student Affairs Director Mary Rosequist was out sick, so they were coordinating asynchronous to do split plans. And then, like always, if you have any questions, please let Director Smith and Rosequist know, or you can come to the Student Affairs Committee on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. in UC 127. However, there is no meeting this week. So, with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Thank you very much. Senator Good?
Yes. Where are the flu shots at, and is it just a walk-in, or do you need to make an appointment?
I give it to Associate Director Burroughs.
Hi, I work at UHCS, so we are an appointment-based only clinic, so we do ask that you call to schedule an appointment. Generally with flu shots, you can be seen the same day, unless if you call it like 4:30, then we can't see you. There are sometimes flu clinics around campus, so if that's happening, check our social media, we'll post it on there and we'll say where we're at. But even if there's a flu clinic happening, let's say in Anderson, you can't make it to Anderson that day, but still want to get a flu shot done, you can still get it done. We just usually recommend you go to the flu shot clinic, so.
Thank
you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Second thing.
Director Gross?
Is it true, if you get a flu shot, you also can get a goodie bag as well?
I believe that is also 100% true.
Senator Marty?
What do I do if I already have my flu shot?
Good for you.
Great job, Max. Don't get sick.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Any other questions? Once or twice? Seeing none, wonderful. With that, we'll move on to officer reports, starting with the report of our president.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Senator Carter, for riveting announcements this evening. A couple updates. You can see what we had going on last week. I went to, the only thing important to note, I went to Rock County Collegium, which is spelled incorrectly here, but it was a great time. So thank you to the Rock folks for having me. It was, I learned a lot, I'll say that. So, and Connor, we've all met Connor before in our training. Vice President gave an excellent report, so if you want notes on the report he gave, let me know and I can fill you in later. This week, a couple important items. The non-alcohol leadership team will be meeting to go over some fringe rates. It should be a brief meeting, and we're very close to wrapping it up. I also have a meeting with Gabby Trial there this week. The safety walk is on Wednesday. Director Smith will get into that, but very excited. The MLK Week Committee meeting will be meeting. I'm on that committee with Director Billigan. It's a great time. The shared governance meeting system-wide is happening on Friday virtually, so I'll be tuning into that, as well as the Chancellor's Student Advisory Council. We'll meet. I know some of the senators here are on that, so very excited to see you all there and spend some time with you on Friday. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield any questions.
Any questions for President Grant? Once, go twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move on to the report of our Vice President Parker Bay.
Awesome. So last week, as I was saying before, we started some collaborative conversations with some other organizations in the Rock Connection Center. With that, I was able to connect with the ISA president. For those of you unaware what ISA stands for, it stands for the International Student Association. So with that, we're looking to collaborate and kind of plan an event for next semester. Hopefully gathering together some of those other groups in that area as well. So on that same note, I'll be meeting up with the president of Latinos Unidos this week. Be attending the safety walk, the NOLT cabinet, and then as usual, we have our one-on-ones with the directors, and then I'll go to my report.
Any questions for Vice President Bay? Once or twice, seeing none. With that, we'll move on to the report of our WSG Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am unable to find the wheelchair basketball time. I know that it's a 2-day tournament. It starts on the 20th.
Yep.
It's not on Connect and it's not on their website. It just says that it's happening. So I sent an email off to their coach to see. There's usually an 11, 3, and 7 is my experience, but there's multiple teams in the tournament. So I would suggest that you check out their social media posts. I wasn't able to check that right now, but check their Instagram and their Facebook page, and more than likely will be on the universities as well. So sorry, couldn't come up with that with every place I put. Other than working with the NALT folks and trying to wrap that up, I would just share that there's some events that are happening yet this week. One sponsored by the WCC that can help you manage going home for the holidays. There will also be a great presentation with a colleague across campus from UHCS on how to manage that as well. So whether it's the first time you go home for Thanksgiving or to another location for Thanksgiving, they should have some good advice for you to take with you. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield to questions.
Any questions for advisement? Once, go twice, see none. With that, we'll move on to e-board reports, starting with reports of our Director of Academic Affairs, Andy Reiser.
Hi everyone. So last week, a lot of work was SUFAC hearings and deliberations. There was the discussion with e-board and Chancellor King regarding our priorities. As for this week, we had our Academic Affairs Committee right before this, and then a discussion about textbook rental communication. And then me and Olivia have some 2-on-1s related to career services and advising. And then career services is having an AI panel this Wednesday at 3:30. So it's in UC 266, and there will be employers and some faculty to discuss AI in the workplace. And so I'm meeting the interviewers of this. I'm going to hurry over right after that, but if you're able to attend, then I highly encourage being able to go. So with that, I yield to any questions.
Any questions for Director Reiser or Senator Crawford?
Can you say the date and time of that once more?
Yeah, so that panel is on Wednesday, November 19th at 3:30 in UC 266.
Perfect.
Any other questions? And once, and twice. Seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our Associate Director of Academic Affairs, Olivia Gross.
Hi everyone. As you can see, me and Abby's kind of report is very similar because we're attending the same meeting, so fun. But last week with Abby, we attended the Chancellor's meeting where we talked about WSG priorities, and then I had a one-on-one with Doug, and then this week, very similar, we had discussion about textbook rentals, we're meeting with met with the Academic Affairs Committee, meeting with Career Services, and also Academic Advising, and then University Curriculum Committee is this Friday that I'm attending. With that, any questions?
Any questions for Director Gross? And once, and twice, seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our Director of Student Affairs. Once again.
Hey y'all, last week I was mostly sick. And I wasn't sick. I was in SUFAC deliberations for most of the daylight and not daylight hours, and worked on finalizing safety walk info, helped resolve a couple of housing concerns. And then this week I have one-on-ones with Angela Bodonian, President Bradley, Director Rosequist, and the safety walk is kind of my big focus this week. So.
Any questions? And once, and twice. I have one. What is a safety walk?
So as you have all hopefully seen in your emails several times, the safety walk is an event that my position is tasked in our standing rules to coordinate with a number of administrators and very specific members of student government to go through safety concerns on campus largely related to physical safety. So we have kind of been pushing this survey out. We'll take those responses and other concerns we've heard and walk those administrators through those concerns very physically, so they very physically need to see those concerns.
Senator Martin?
With the safety walk, will we figure out if we see something has money or needs investment, how do we make sure that we communicate it to deliberations? Or how do we make sure that we get it ready for the budget next year?
So we kind of had some things like this last year. We talked about lighting and adding light poles and things like that, things that can't necessarily immediately happen. What happens is most of the administrators that we're inviting are the heads of departments that handle those kind of things. And the reason they're invited is specifically so they take note of it and make sure to take care of it as soon as possible. So we're kind of showing them the issues and telling them that it is their responsibility to take care of it. And then we have some discussion over what we think the best way to resolve those issues would be.
Any other questions? Once and twice seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our Associate Director of Student Affairs, Ms. Rose.
Yeah, so, last week, Senate meeting, obviously, and then I was out sick Tuesday through Thursday as well, so, yeah, luckily on Friday, I was able to get some stuff done in person, luckily. I had a one-on-one with Director Smith and attended the dining meeting on Friday. This week, I will be meeting with Advisor Bilgan and Director Smith.
Any questions for Director Rose? Once and twice seeing none, with that, we'll move on to our Director of Communications, Paige Lemon.
Hi all. So last week I met with my committee, had a one-on-one with Vice President Bain, filmed some TikToks with the committee, designed graphics for the Instagram for World Kindness Day, created graphics for Director Smith for mental health, and then this week we'll be filming more TikToks and then creating graphics for our Instagram for upcoming events. And with that, I yield to any questions.
Any questions for Director Lemon? Once and twice seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report, if there is one, of our RSG Chair, Amy Holmes.
I will have a substantial written report next week, Monday.
Sounds good. Any questions for Amy? Once and twice seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our WSG Clerk, CJ West.
Hi, last week I worked on the election stuff again, wrapping it up, website, drive, and went to the board Chancellor King meeting. This week's mostly everyone who were elected seats were write-ins. Your signatures are due at noon, otherwise you were emailed otherwise. I'll be working on validating those signatures, going to the safety walk, cabinet, website, drive, backlog. If you're on the RAC committee, please make sure your Outlook calendar is updated, so I'll be reaching out sometime this week to try to meet. You laughing? And then also, I only got one person from today who put their committee report in on the Connect 2 form, so please do that, so I have it for the minutes. That's how I yield.
Any questions for our clerk? Once and twice seeing none, with that, we're on the report of our Senate Parliamentary Health Career.
Hi everyone, so last week I had CPAC deliberations with some other people, and so I was pretty stuck in that. And then this week, I'm gonna try to do whatever I can to work with Parker on that outreach project, and then I'm gonna try to catch up on it. But as always, if there are any new ideas about outreach or kind of anything, just email me.
Any questions for our parliamentarian? Once and twice seeing none, with that, we'll move on to the report of our deputy speaker, Nathan Triggus.
Happy Monday, everyone. I was busy last week with SUFAT.
Oh my God, that's big.
So if you email the deputy speaker email, I have not been honoring that really at all. So I will respond to you if you email me. But with that, I yield.
Any questions? For once, Senator Marty.
That's a lot of paper.
Question mark.
It is a lot of paper, you're right.
Any other questions? And once or twice seeing none, with that one in my report, feel free to go through and read that a bit. The important stuff is that I worked a lot with Advisor Bilgan, so big thank you to Advisor Bilgan, and SUPAC Chair Nick Patrikis to ensure that the next 2 weeks go as smooth as possible. Because, you know, it's a great process, we gotta do it, one of the most important things we do. We wanna make sure that we are as in line as possible. So thank you to the two of them. At the very, very bottom of my report, there is the line extending a congratulations to our clerk. Sandy West is being elected president of Alpha Gamma Delta. And as promised to some of the lit folks who you saw speak in student issues and concerns earlier, there was a bit of an email snafu. The WSG email got the request to go on the agenda, so I will totally take the blame for that. And I've let them know to please email and anyone who wants anything put on the agenda in the future, please email the WSG speaker email. That's the best way to ensure that it will get onto the agenda. So there's that. But also, I had a conversation with President Bradley last night after my phone call with Tiana Thompson of LIT, and they are intending to meet with either President Bradley or the Student Affairs Department in some fashion this week, next week, at some point to move some of those issues you heard about forward. I chatted with them in the hallway for a little while, and they asked as well that if any of y'all have any interest, you can chat with me afterward, and I can connect you either through the Student Affairs folks up there or directly to them. We'll make sure that those extremely important issues that we're talking about today get heard. So those are kind of the big things. Otherwise, you can go through and read the meetings I had last week and the meetings I had this week. Any questions for myself? Once or twice, seeing none, whether we're on unfinished business, which we have none. So we're on new business, starting with, we're going to go a little out of order for some of the folks who are sticking around for us. So we're going to go into item C, Rock Campus Annual Allocation Budget Recommendation for fiscal year 27. Y'all can stay there or y'all can come up to the podium. But we've got it pulled up for you. Where would y'all prefer to go?
I think I'll stand at the podium.
You want to come stand up? Wonderful.
I'll leave the mouse up there so you can drag it.
I am the most sorry in the world that I sent you up to the podium in service. Before we begin, does everybody have that pink sheet of paper? Can I see your pink sheets of paper? And by can I see your pink sheets of paper, I mean I should grab my pink sheets of paper as well. So this is kind of going to be our handy dandy SUFAC help guide. I'm so glad Jan made it pink because it's so easy to find and so easy to look at and rub on. So if you could go down to the 2 piece where it says training, SUFAC/WSG ensures all officers, members, and advisors are trained and well versed in the definition of viewpoint neutrality and basically what we're doing here for the next couple of weeks. That's what I'm doing right now. It's also what we did for WSG training, but for those of you who weren't at WSG training, this is kind of a spark notes of the most important things you're going to need and the most important pieces of info that are going to lead you through this process. So the topic talks about the legal responsibilities and limitations. Give that a read. As you're skimming, take a look at anything that's bolded or underlined. So the big thing that you'll see that is first bolded is do not take into account the group's opinion or speech when making funding decisions. So the way these first 2 weeks are going to work is this week, if you go down to review of recommendations part 1, SUFAC will present their recommendations at a WSG meeting. That is this meeting. Congratulations, you've made it. So both the Rock County SUFAC and the main campus SUFAC will present their recommendations. That's what they're doing this week. If you go a little bit further down, you will see under the adjustment process, the second bullet point, underlined and bolded says, encouraged to speak directly with the WSG, oh, not that one. Somewhere in here, it talks about how we can ask lots of questions. So that's kind of what tonight is for. As folks are presenting things to you, ask questions if you have them. We have so many wonderful SUFAC faces in the room, not only students but advisors as well. They've got lots of questions. So as the process continues, this is going to be as open a forum as it gets to be able to ask whatever questions you want. See tonight as if there's anything lingering in your head before next week. Ask those things so they're out in public for the whole body to view so that everyone can have them in their head rumbling around, gestate with them until next week, where at the second week, at the following WSG meeting, change or adjustment will be made by WSG if passed by 2/3 vote. So we will go through line item by line item. For those of you who've never experienced it, I sit up here, I have a document, I have a spreadsheet. We go line item by line item. We say, this is what they were recommended. This is what they requested. Is there any discussion? We will do that for every single line item. If a member of the student organization reaches out to you, maybe they have already, they could have already. A few have reached out to myself. What that will look like is what we call the adjustment process. So there is an appeals process. I want to be very clear. An appeal is built into the SUPAC process as what might happen if there's a process error or if that very top thing goes wrong. So if somebody were to take into the account an opinion or speech when deciding whether to fund, that's when an appeal could go through. You're more than welcome to dive into what the appeal process looks like for a student organization. I don't cover it here because, at least in this context, you are not a student organization president, so besides one of us. So you won't need to know what that looks like. And if you are interested in what that looks like, you're more than welcome. I can get you those resources to dive into what that looks like. But what's most relevant to us is the adjustment process. That means any WSG senator can, and I'm going to do this a couple times throughout this process. There are 3 things we can do: accept, reject, or modify. I'm going to say that one more time. We can accept, we can reject, or we can modify. Modify is what that adjustment process is. So, if you would like to make an adjustment, it might sound something, and by the way, this is the kind of thing that would happen next week. You could say, I would like to adjust A for student organization XYZ to B. I move to adjust A to B for student organization XYZ. That then gets seconded, we move into discussion, and we will vote. If it passes by 2/3 majority, that adjustment gets made. Everybody following me here? Does this document seem like it's gonna stand up for the next 2 weeks? If you're like Isaiah, I know all about the SUPAC process, and you missed this huge thing, and it's not on here, and I think we should totally have it in this document, come chat with me afterwards, and we can totally edit this for next week. But I spent some time with Nick, and I spent some time with Advisor Bilgan, ensuring that this document is just about as robust a one-page as we could get you. So, thank you for allowing me to get immediately in the way as you walked up to the podium. But now we will move into the Rock County Annual Allocation Budget Recommendation for fiscal year 27. What that means is there will be a presentation. I will give you all a moment to look through some of those documents you were given, and then we will ask questions. Everyone following? Sweet, let's go.
Hello, I'm Dominic Markling Chavarria, treasurer at SGA at UROC. We went through the segregated fees that all student-aligned orgs requested. The big thing with the money change is that the FY27 segregated fees for the Rock County campus shifted. Some of them shifted to null. The timeline previously requests had a combination of eligible and non-eligible expenses. This change will bring efficiencies to the process and better serve students on both campuses. The things that were shifted to null were competitive sports and recreation, learning support center, programming board, student life activities, textbook rental, and well-being services. The process we went through was all the members from the RSGA and participated in the orientation on October 3rd regarding viewpoint neutrality. The committee met 4 times to review the eligible and non-eligible requests, and the RSGA approved the FY27 eligible and non-eligible fees and sent them to here. Sorry, first time jitters. The orgs that we approved, starting with the first one, which was the engineering club, we approved $930. And the next, Green Scene, was $750. Did I go through? Yeah, oh, sorry. The next one was Grandma's House, which was $1,200. After that was InterVarsity, which was $2,100, and then Latinos Unidos, which was $4,000, and we added a stipulation to that one because of the large increase from 3,000 to 4,000 for next year. The Phi Theta Kappa, we approved the $1,000 request. And for the Student Alliance, we approved the $600 request. There is a decrease in their request because they used a lot of the money from last year to get what they needed and realized that they no longer need or have enough stuff and enough money for next year. And for that, I yield to questions.
Thank you so much. I can start with one. So I heard you mention earlier that you moved some of these things from the allocable side of the house to the non-allocable side of the house. Is it true that that was done to align with what we do over here at Whitewater campus?
That is a wonderful question.
Would you like me to respond?
Yeah, you can yield whenever you'd like. So just say, I'll yield to
Jeannie.
Hello, Jeannie. Good to see you.
Hi.
Welcome in.
Yes, every year we have been aligning our processes, so they are in line with what happens here at the main campus for SUFAC as well as for the non-allocable. As we were discussing over the last year, it was agreed that we would use the NALT workbooks, align all of our departments that submitted allocable and non-allocable expenses. So for example, when you look at the spreadsheet and you look at the academic skills learning support center, there was a combination of allocable and non-allocable expenses. Those are now all NALT. The same with competitive sports and recreation. Also the same with the program board as Dominic listed out. So the plan was to strategically make those alignments so we can kind of right size our fees and our services, okay? Specifically in the areas that are now considered null. I think this will be much easier for all of the budget office individuals here at the main campus, and it will actually be easier for us at the Rock campus as well. And I think it'll be much more understandable as we move forward. So we keep trying to align those services and fees. So that was the purpose for that.
Thank you very much. Senator Carter.
Yeah, so under total applicable recommendation says FY27 seg fees for organized activities. Could you just go into like those organizations at Rock also pay for seg fees? Is that what that 2232 is stating for, or is that for like what each student is paying for at Rock?
I believe that's what each student is paying for at Rock.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Senator Reed.
I'm wondering if you could elaborate what the organization Grandma's House does.
Grandma's House is it's a bunch of crafts, and they have meetings every Monday that just do mundane activities like crafts. You can color sheets. There's occasional yarn making or crocheting. There's also I've heard or seen that they're trying to do clay as well.
To follow up on that, when I was on the Rock County campus on Thursday, I saw the next meeting is next to it. It's at a fireplace. I saw, which is the Grandma's House is awesome.
Thank you, President Tyler. Any other questions? Senator Martin.
I'm wondering about this. Based on, from you saying UW Rock and UWW, seems like you are sharing the fundraising with UWW Notes campus. How much, based on the whole budget from UW Whitewater and URock, is there going to be a lot of net zero, are you gonna be within the budget for coming up here probably? Or do we, for fundraising and the amount of money we're making, so we have to figure out how to fundraise more money so we can keep a net zero budget? Or, I don't know, I just don't wanna get to the, that's the only thing I worry about.
I can help answer
Yeah.
that question in kind of a process way. So if you look at the far right column, the 4% increase, you go all the way down to where it says 2232.
Yes.
When you talk about balancing a budget, what this is almost like creating that budget, and the way that money is being funded for these student orgs is every student who pays site fees at Rock pays that 2232 so that these folks get funded. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Wonderful.
I'm sorry about,
No, don't be sorry. Good question. Any other questions? Senator Carter?
Yeah. So you stated that stuff is going to null. Why is that the case? Why are they moving from the Rock SUFAC to null? We just to get a better understanding.
That's a good question. It's moving to null for, I yield to Jean.
Okay, so the NALT process is different at the Rock campus. Here, you have a separate SUFAC committee that reviews all of the allocable dollar requests from your student organizations. That's what Nick is chairing. That's in that big binder that must weigh 20 pounds, maybe?
It's fun out here tonight. He carries it around. It's almost like Mjolnir. No one else can pick it up.
So, at the Rock campus, traditionally, the Student Government Association Segregated Fee Committee reviews all of the allocable requests. It's a committee within the Rock Student Government Association. It's not a separate committee. They also look at NALT, okay? So they have been, over many, many years, looking at both requests as a way for them to understand all of the services that are being provided by the departments at the Rock campus as well as the student boards. So it's a little bit of a different process. And so as we were moving forward this year, we spent about a year talking about how do we continue to align the processes. And so this next year, a decision was made because here at the main campus, departments that provide services to students go through NALT. We're doing the same here for the Rock departments. So we want to align that process. But we don't have a separate NALT committee. It kind of all goes through student government. They take a look at it. We have met with the leadership here to talk about the NALT process. They're using the same workbooks that all the other departments here use. And we will be presenting that with WSG to the chancellor in December. Does that answer your question?
That was wonderful.
Okay.
A small distinction I would make is because your question used the word null, that's the only reason I was making the distinction, is, and full credit to SUFAC Chair Nick Petrukas for telling me this. This is not an original Isaiah thought, I just want to make that clear. NALT is a group of people. So non-allocable is where they have moved this. They haven't moved it to NALT. They've moved it to the non-allocable side of the house.
Yes, correct.
The Rock County process doesn't have a NALT. They don't have a non-allocable leadership team. They have their, what was that committee called?
It's the segregated fee committee, which is a committee of the Student Government Association.
So they have that, and it looks at both sides of the house. On Whitewater campus, we have split it, and one goes through SUFAC, one goes through NALT. So they have taken it and gone through the non-alcohol side of the house, is how I would phrase that. If that helps clear up for everybody. Senator White?
Yeah, there's a better way to say other
Yeah.
than not, because I can see where not would be confusing.
Can you elaborate as to why the Theater and Performing Arts Association does not exist anymore? Or I guess why it's not getting any funding, or if that is why they no longer exist?
We no longer have a theater program at the Rock campus. That decision was made for a variety of reasons. It wasn't made because they weren't getting any funding. The theater that we used to have probably 10 years ago, we had a lot of Rock students that would participate in the theater. Over those years, that number has dwindled. So way back in, well, actually, before the FY25 amount, there was a lot of discussion on how that group would increase the number of Rock students participating. And so because of a variety of reasons, especially even with COVID, it basically decimated it, the whole thing. So strategically, the campus made a decision to really not have a theater program any longer. Unfortunately, that is correct.
All right, any other questions? If not, I have one last one. I have now found it on here again with the help of our wonderful SUFAC chair and deputy speaker, Mr. Trudis. But could you tell us what the percent increase or decrease is? Total.
Total, technically not yet, because we have to add in the.
Sure. But at least what you presented today.
What we presented today, to my knowledge, it was 9. That's all.
The total for allocable or total for everything?
The percent for just the allocable.
Presented today.
Just the allocable is being presented today.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I am seeing.
I think it's like 88%. It's almost like an 88% decrease.
I'm seeing 87.3% decrease.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's mostly because we switched.
Yes.
Yep. I'm just making sure that everyone knows. And who's driving that one? Could we highlight where that is? So everybody can see that. Right. Or just look at President Bradley's finger there if you can. Right there is the total percent decrease. So not bad. Not bad indeed. Any other questions, or at least Advisor Logan, or you?
I would just say, right, so it moves from one pocket of the St. Clair pants to the other. Yep. At least move your phone from the right to the left. Just so people understand why it's such a big number, because that's kind of freaky. Mm-hmm. All the stuff that ROC does for all the ROC students there is still getting done. It's just on the other side.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure you didn't think it went away after all that work.
No. Any other questions? Going once? President Bradley?
Just out of more curiosity, do the ROC folks have the total percentage for allocable and non-allocable, approximately, roughly?
12.04%.
Increase?
Correct.
Follow-up question?
President Bradley?
Is it true that the Chancellor approved the ROC campus going above a 5% increase?
Correct.
Because their fees have remained the same over the years?
Correct. We haven't increased our fees in a number of years, and he approved the raise of the percentage above 5.
I have a question. You're welcome to you, President Bradley. Why is that 5% number important, and why did the Chancellor need to give grace?
Due to the fact that we haven't raised that number in a long time, so we didn't have enough money, essentially.
Yeah. President Bradley?
Just for those who may not know, the Chancellor asked SUFAC and NALT here on Whitewater campus to keep their increases below 5%. That was a general request of his. That's the 5% we're referring to. You still have to approve the line items before seeking final approval from the Chancellor.
Any other questions?
Oh, I was just gonna add to that, yes, it's again going back to us aligning the programming and the services to make sure that there's services that are gonna cross both campuses, right? And so when we say a 12.04% increase, that really amounts to about $77.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, seeing none, just so we are staying in line with this purple document, what we just did, pink document, sorry, I bleed purple, you know how it is.
We're out of purple.
So, what we just did was SUPAC will present their recommendations at the WSG meeting. SUPAC just presented their recommendations at the WSG meeting. At the following WSG meeting, that's when we will go through and approve this. We will approve eligible, we will approve non-eligible at the same time for the recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to stay and watch the rest of this, but if you'd like to head home, drive safe. I don't know if there's still the rain-snow mix out there, but like I said, drive safe. With that, yes.
I would just like to extend a cultural awareness thing. When someone we all know that is it true that it's not that we're being snarky or it's our parliamentary culture to say it in that way so that information gets shared. So just want to make sure that we're all on the same page since it sounds kind of weird from the gallery to hear people say that. So just so you know, it was a way to get the information from you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. With that, we will move on to our SUPAC annual allocation budget recommendation for fiscal year 27.
This is much better. Normally if you do 20 pages, because it was a big, it would fit like 6 books. Also, we've had more substance.
Just in case you have a question.
Because it's paper, and it's much bigger, it's smaller.
What is it with the Z?
This is what they're, I believe it is non, so like, or you have your well, not just for yes, it's no, because it would say some of them were active for some of them might be intermural.
What is like? Does the Senate have this memo in front of them?
No.
Which one?
Oh, I can help out.
The Senate of the Whitewater Student.
The computer that we have is frustrating.
We don't have those.
We have
The
shell. Otherwise, it's like maybe an hour.
This last column is what's used.
The problem with physical,
Did you?
do you have one of these?
Okay, the first column.
Oh, yeah. Can I have one?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's how much money they have. This is the Excel sheet.
Do you want one of
I
those?
do not. Sorry.
No worries. Do you have one of the memos? I'm sure Nick will go through and kind of explain. Do you have one of the memos? Do you have one of the memos?
Like 30 seconds ago.
Do you have a guy with the memo? Do you have one of the memos?
No, I was.
Memos?
Okay.
Does everybody have one of these memos? I've said the word memo so many times, it's kind of lost meaning. Would you like one of the memos?
I have a packet.
You want me to memo? You don't need more than a memo? Alrighty, wonderful. If we have order real quick, and And SUFAC Chair Nick Patricus, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
On behalf of the Segregated University Fee Allocation Committee, I appreciate the opportunity to present this evening. As a committee, we've engaged in over 50 hours of hearings and deliberation on the fiscal year 2027 allocable segregated fee. This year, 116 different student organizations and sub-departments requested funding through the allocable process, including 6 for the first time. That's a double check this one, but I believe those are accurate. Student organizations that were eligible for segregated university fee funding are organizations that do not restrict gender membership, including but not limited to the following ways: academic major or academic status, major and minor, GPA, credit completion, race, color, national origin, gender identity or expression, religion, age, disability, veteran status, ancestry, creed, sexual orientation, marital status, arrest record, military service, guard or reserve status, income level or source, witness protection, or any other federally protected identity. Social group organizations, including fraternities, sororities, and societies, honorary or professional societies, credit-generating activities or organizations, and groups that fail to meet expectations of the application process are also not eligible to receive SUE funding for their organization. And if you have that pink sheet, this next paragraph is the top part of that. But SUFAC is presenting an initial increase of 11.99% or $45,518. It sounds like a lot, but we are recommending a contribution of $24,793 from the SUFAC contingency fund. That contingency fund is maintained by SUFAC and is a collection of SUFAC funds previously allocated to groups that were unspent. The balance of that is currently $388,481. Or $119,972. I don't have the math on that, but I believe it is $268,000 that is spendable. So that contribution in SUFAC is only recommending a contribution. Is recommended with the contribution. SUFAC is recommending a maximum increase of 5% for the Whitewater campus allocable fee. Some important factors and results we used in our deliberations. We use the FTE full-time equivalent of 8,204. It's been the same for a couple of years, so pretty easy to do that. Our recommended allocation, if you look at the amount on the next sheet, on the bottom right is $397,013. So then if you pull the contribution of $24,793, that is an increase of $2.16, $5. Or $45.37 per student. Continue using the same floor. Due to the high value of requests and the intent to keep student fees reasonable and sustainable, additional reductions were necessary. 2 requests were necessary. The following considerations were applied: clarity/completeness of requests for multiple trips, speakers, or events were reduced, direct relation to the mission of the institution and organization, contribution of organizational members, reduced fundraising, trip contributions, how purchase benefited the campus versus individual members, and one-time purchases or travel with little detail provided were recommended to request from the contingency fund. Well, why is SUFAC presenting an increase? During SUFAC's deliberations, several aspects were brought forth for consideration. SUFAC recognizes the value that student organizations and departments bring to the university and the increase in student involvement and retention. Furthermore, the student fee was ultimately agreed upon based on the following factors. The initial requested amount for student organization for campus departments was $568,892.45. If we chose to fully fulfill those requests with no adjustments, we would have to raise the allocable fee by $26.13, or 60.48%, which is a lot. So that fee would have been significantly higher than the previously established percentage increase of 3 to 5% between WSG and SUFAC. And the purpose of SUFAC is to determine an appropriate recommendation to you all. SUFAC received 2 late submissions and determined a 20% penalty was appropriate for those groups. We did receive 3 late submissions. I apologize. The final point that SUFAC discussed was the long-term sustainability of the allocable segregated fee and the considerable size of our contingency fund. The committee agreed to recommend a contribution from that contingency fund to fund as many groups as we can in reasonable ways while not raising the fee per student drastically. There was a long discussion about what percentage increase to recommend, considering the total cost of attendance is only growing for attending higher education, and trying to do our part to not raise the fee per student in drastic ways. All discussed contingency fund support would maintain a 5% or lower fee increase. And then CFAC used the following guidelines to base all fiscal year 2027 recommendations on. A request that exceeded these amounts were brought to the guideline amount unless rationale was provided and sufficient on why we should exceed these guidelines. That was done multiple times for multiple years. These are the guidelines we used to make our recommendation. That was approved in September. And then the big long list here, printed on the 11x17, is every student organization that requested funding. The yellow column is what they requested. If you look at the bottom, 568,892. And then the very right column in the green is $397,013 is what we are recommending with the contribution from the With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield.
Wonderful. I will give you all a minute to kind of digest some of what you're seeing on the big sheet here in terms of every student organization. And take in some of those words you might have heard our wonderful SUPAC chair, Ms. Patricia, say. And I am going to be the kind of guy that gives you an actual minute. Yeah.
So I have this binder here of every student org that applied. You need a blue sheet that has the request, the recommendation, and then the application that will be available in the WSG office. It's basically what it says, but like this whole document. So, that one?
That one's yours. If you don't have any notes in it, then this one and that one can both stay.
So there will be a binder. I don't know if it'll be this one or that one, but there will be a binder in the WSG office that has the application, has the request, has the recommended amount.
Point of inquiry.
Go ahead.
Is the diagram for SUFAC on the WSG Google Doc?
What do you mean by diagram?
So how the university is, so the process is about what we do for voting, and then it goes to the chancellor to approve that process for that diagram?
I'm not sure that's in the Google Drive. We could probably get it in there.
Okay.
But, number one, that's a great point. Thank you very much, Senator Martin. We will get it in the Google Drive. Number two, if anyone wants to access it before it's in the Google Drive, if you look up UWW SUFAC, the first link will be the official SUFAC policy. Sharon Patrice is doing it right now. uw.edu/SUFAC send you to this page. It shows you current membership. If you look at the top hyperlink, it says UW SUFAC policy in the paragraph, in the paragraph, in the paragraph. Boom, it'll take you right to the PDF of the SUFAC policy. That's the whole thing. It's like 29 pages. I spent a lot of time in there in the last 72 hours. Wonderful. Okay. Let's start with some questions. Senator Lieber.
What is the $24,793 from the SUFAC contingency fund going to that you needed to take out of contingency?
So if we did not do that, we would be proposing a 11.99% increase, or a $45,000 increase for just alcohol, because we wanted to fund so many groups, and so many groups had such great requests. That is what's too high for SUFAC to recommend. So we had a lot of discussion about, do we go back and further deliberate on what we could, I don't want to say cut, but bring our recommendation down to the target amount, or do we just pull in a contribution from our contingency fund? So the recommendation SUFAC is presenting today is to pull some of that contingency fund into or contribute some of the contingency fund to the recommendation to get to at least a 5% or a max of 5% increase per hour.
Senator,
why are some of these cells highlighted in yellow?
That ones highlighted in yellow were edited, or not edited, but modified from the recommendations, from the request to the recommendation.
I have a question.
I have a follow-up. How much is, I don't know if it says it in here, how much is left in the contingency, I guess, account?
I don't have the exact, but it would be about 350,000-ish. I can get you an exact number, but you have some?
You can yield there.
But yeah, enough, and that is maintained by SUFAC. So if you go to the SUFAC Connect 2 page, there's a link you can submit a request if you're a student organization to request money for that.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm seeing at the very bottom of my big long spreadsheet paper, it says Z Spirit Program, Replacement Fund. There's a bunch of Z's, and they seem to be kind of sectioned off away from the rest of this. Could you tell me what all of these Z's are?
Yeah, so everything above those two lines there is a student organization. Yes. So the Spirit Program and Spirit Program Republic Group, which is considered also a student organization. The Spirit Program and the Spirit Program Replacement Fund is a department, the Department of Recreation Sports, that requests that. And then all the double Z's are club sports.
Thank you very much. Senator Lee.
There are a few organizations on here that have the org name and they're labeled SAI and they have $1. I have an assumption of what I believe that is, but are you able to explain that? I'm taking a guess that it means they're just asking for $1 so they can remain in SUFAC for qualifying, but are you able to elaborate?
Yeah, so ADA, SAI, that and then the concert fund, those are also not student orgs, so I think everything else is student org, but I'll probably buy something. But those are, SAI manages those funds. ADA is for student organizations. If, let's say, a student org is going to go on a trip, they just need to rent a bus, and they have a student who needs an accessible bus or a wheelchair, let's say, right? That fund exists so SAI can help out that student organization. So they're not requesting more just because they have students who need accessible buses. I don't know if Kim, who's the requester that about, maybe speak about what those are.
Advisor Bilgan, Kim Clarkson, whoever wants to.
So ADA stands for the Americans with Disability Act. So any organization who would like to provide or ask to provide an accommodation for students, that's a pretty pricey thing, but we never know from one year to the next. So we might use nothing one year, and we might use $5,000 the next year, but we still want to make sure that all the events that student orgs are having are accessible to our students. So that's, we put $1 in there so it doesn't fall off the list.
That's
right. And then because there used to be a rule, they had to get at least $1 to be able to go back and ask for contingency. That rule has since changed, but we like it to not lose its place. And the concert fund is there because there is a balance in the concert fund that needs to be reviewed, and we asked for clarification this year so that we know that we're using that fund in a way that students are still approving it. It was collected and generated for entertainment programming. So that's why they're above. Does that help? Okay.
Senator Lang.
What is alloy? I see that they requested $8,000 and are receiving $0.
Yeah, so they had $8,000 in requests. That was all in travel. And if I can best summarize that deliberations, I believe that the trip was for the organization to go to a market essentially to sell products they had made. SUFAC did not believe that that every student should be paying for a select few students to
Go sell the art that they made.
Yeah. Also, I do have with the contribution of $24,793 from contingency, the contingency fund can go to a balance of $363,688.
Can you repeat that number?
$363,688.
Thank you.
Sorry, other than numbers.
Senator Thompson?
So the Super Smash Bros. Club is getting $1,470 in travel fees. What is that for?
Are you asking what the what the request was?
Yeah, it just seems kind of high for.
They're asking for, that's to travel to a competition.
Okay.
Travel just by itself is expensive. And if we only funded travel and nothing else from the requests, that still would have exceeded our what we're recommending today, so. A lot of travel.
Senator Major?
As I was reviewing this document, I noticed that probably one of the larger changes between requested items and what was being received was a Beekeepers Club. Could you go into a little more detail on why their request was significantly cut from what they originally requested?
Beekeepers Club, they have a lot of expensive purchases, right? Keeping bees is not really, I would say it's not a cheap thing to do, cheap hobby. But most of those are one-time expenses. If you buy a beehive, you don't have to buy that box every year. I don't know if that's the correct term, I apologize if it's not.
Hi.
Like you buy the box, you don't have to rebuy the box every year, it kind of stays. So all of that was recommended to be pushed to the contingency fund, so we can get that stuff now, and it's not a recurring expense that we see every year.
Follow-up?
Yes. I review agendas very, very rigorously. I noticed that they had requested a contingency fund this previous year that I believe was denied. If you're requesting them to go through the contingency fund, could you just give a bit more onto that circumstance and how it could apply to this one?
You asked, like, you talking about a time in the previous academic year?
No. This previous,
This year?
yes, they requested funds to winterize their hives, and that was denied, I believe.
Oh, okay, yes. So that was to build a fence, and we had a lot of questions about, build a fence around where they keep the bees. We had a lot of questions about, did they have the permits, did they have the documentation needed? And so it was rejected, but in the email I sent them was like a list of questions, this is why it was rejected. And I believe, I have to look, they have already submitted another one that answered a lot of those questions. I haven't looked yet, I'll be honest. I've been busy with other things, but it's Wednesday we'll meet to look at that, so.
Thank you.
I have kind of a follow-up. Did you say you're suggesting them go through the contingency, which is different than the SUFAC contingency fund?
So they go through contingency to request from the contingency fund. It's the same.
Use the contingency fund to ask for the contingency fund.
Yeah, I have a question about why Pi Sigma Epsilon seems to get so much more money than any other organization besides WSG. And also no other, I don't see any other fraternities or sororities that have that high.
Sorry.
So Pi Sigma Epsilon is a business organization that has Greek letters, but it's not like
Oh,
a fraternity or a sorority.
That makes more sense now.
There's a member of that in the room. Who could probably tell you more about what the organization is. But that was, I believe, the single largest request from a single student organization. But they it's all in travel. We're mostly in travel. But it's just a lot of members. That's why. I think it was 35 members. And they have members to support that request. The other organizations who requested lots of members but did not have the membership to support such a recommendation. Is that kind of answer something?
Yeah.
You can follow up?
We looked a lot at what the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just holding my hand.
We looked a lot at what the group was contributing in addition to what they were asking for, and so that might seem like a lot in comparison to others, but some of that depends on how expensive the trip is. And so we looked more at what the students were contributing in addition to what the group was asking, and that's where we landed.
Thank you very much. Senator Carr.
Yeah, so my question's kind of two in one. What is Cheddar Together? And I see that they've requested 2,330, and they only got their expenses part of 783. Why so much of a decrease from what they requested?
Yeah, so Cheddar Together is a student organization that is all about cheese. And I can't believe I haven't made it out to one of those meetings myself yet.
It's really fun.
They do have a max limit of how many students they can accept into the org, just because buying a lot of cheese can be expensive. And so the request, most of what was cut was for travel. Maybe all of it was cut for travel.
They don't have a max limit to their membership though. They just have limited supplies at all of their events, because when they run out of cheese, they run out of cheese.
But again, the study guidelines that we based our deliberations on, if you look in the travel, new notes on the criteria 6, CFAC expects, with rare exceptions, that groups requesting travel funds, I'm reading it wrong, sorry, 5, event is something you would not be able to experience on campus. And so the travel was to go to Madison to eat some cheese, essentially. I'm simplifying the request a lot, but CFAC determined that was something you could do on campus and be open to a lot more students.
Next one.
How do you use objective neutrality when you are making these budget decisions for a club, for the whole broad senator? Like, what is the implementation for using that?
Yeah, so we used what's called viewpoint neutrality, and that is to consider not really the speech of the group, but what the request is. So, or like previous year's expenses, and like what's the increase or what's the percent decrease. So we didn't look and say at like a student or underwater basket weaving club, and we didn't look at what that previous year's request was. We just looked at what this year's request was, and we asked questions like, how many members do you have? What are you planning to do with the funds?
And we're really looking at the proposals and how they provide an educational opportunity that ties into the mission of the organization or the mission of the institution. We're not judging the value added of that mission. We are making sure that we understand that what SUFAC feels is that what they've presented is going to make them better at what their group is all about. So better marketers, better, more knowledgeable about cheese, better at crafting, whatever their skill is. That's what the money should be spent on, is about growing the skills that they have in those organizations. So it's not about what they believe and whether we think it's of value or not. It's really about what it's going to add to the campus landscape.
Is it true that members of SUFAC were at the viewpoint neutrality training with the Office of General Counsel that was hosted by WSG?
That is true.
I have a few. So one is what you said floor earlier, and it's in your memo. When you talk about what that floor is, and I guess, the definition of what the word floor means in this case. Could you break that down for me?
So the floor is really an amount of money that's allowed by the system, please help me if I'm off, that is a percentage of what the annual budget is. So we look at what 12% of this year's budget is, and that's what our floor is. So that if something were to go wrong, right, we have COVID, and less students are here paying fees, right? We still have to pay contracts and complete our responsibilities, and so that floor is our safety to make sure that we can continue to do business as an institution. It's very common in budgeting, and it's common in all of our non-alcohol spaces as well, and we do it as a whole for SUFAC and seg fees, alcohol seg fees, rather than doing it separately by group.
I would just add that that dollar amount is generated because at the end of every year for as long as I can remember, which is, well, my memory's not great, but I've been around for a while, right, is that anything that's left over, that's more than $100 right now, in any of the SUFAC accounts gets swept at the end of the year into that centralized account. Because you may be wondering, how did that generate itself? And that's how it generated itself over the course of many, many, many years. And so that's how SUFAC is able to help an organization that asks for money 18 months ahead of when they actually need it to compensate for things, because those segregated fees were collected as a whole to serve that purpose. So that's how that money was generated initially, and it continues to kind of just percolate as people either don't use or use money.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is it's probably a good thing that money is there, because at some point, the student paid for it to go student.
Correct.
And that through contingency requests, SUFAC hears requests from student groups all over campus. And if it's a one-time or unexpected or new opportunity, SUFAC wants to support it. And they can come in and request for those funds.
Another question. You said as you were going over the memo that there were multiple groups who in travel you funded over the guidelines.
Not necessarily in travel.
Or, I mean, for any of the guidelines, you funded them over the guidelines. Were there any that you funded under the guidelines? And if so, I guess in most general sense, why?
Yes. You'd have to give me some time to pull specifics of what we were looking for. If I can direct you back to our guidelines. So
sure.
What I read originally, point 6, SUFAC expects, with rare exception, that groups requesting travel funds should be paying for a portion of that requested trip. So someone's asking for an all-inclusive trip to go on a conference or something, maybe not even a conference, something that has little educational value. We felt maybe students should be paying for a portion of that trip. So sometimes we cut food from the request, or
It's really about, from my perspective from observing the process, it really came down to when students on the committee saw that a group was asking for a significant contribution and weren't putting anything in themselves. And so the group would look at what the most reasonable option was to help or have the students who are traveling who get the most benefit out of that trip, putting some monetary compensation in. Food is often the most complex and most variable, and the hardest to reimburse as well. That's selfish to say that, but it's true. And it is the smaller amount. Students can go buy groceries, they can save money, they can bring food from home, they can find ways to afford it where the hotel room is not that easy to pay for. So that's by and large where we saw cuts, but we did only cut according to guidelines first and then looked at how it felt at that point.
I have one more, and then I'll have some other folks go, and then I'll have some more. So this was actually semi on behalf of the student organization. So the Student National Association of Teachers and Singing reached out to me. in the most general sense possible, asking why their travel was
So they have a trip to music conference. If you've been in music throughout your youth, solo and ensemble, familiar with what that is? It's kind of like the collegiate version of that. And we asked the question. Actually, one of our advisors asked the question: do you have to be in a class to go on the trip? And they answered yes. And per UW system policy 820. Segregated university fees cannot be used for academic credit generating activities, but you have to be in a class to go on a trip. Is how that would be applied.
follow up on that. If it wasn't credit generating, is it, as best you can speak on behalf of the committee without them voting, is it likely you would have funded the travel?
I can't speak to what the committee would do about that.
I can tell you that in the past, the group has been funded. This is new information to us. I don't know if it's a change in behavior, a misspeak by the students, or just truth coming to light because the right set of questions were asked by the committee. But they were adamant, and we asked a couple different ways to make sure they understood the question, that you had to be enrolled in a voice lesson, which is a accredited class, in order to be able to audition and go to the conference.
Thank you very much. With that, we will move on. Let's go to Senator Lang.
What else is the SUFAC contingency fund used for? If my math is correct, which is very possible that it isn't, there's enough money in the fund to cover the difference that was not being funded this year. So I guess I'm just wondering, what else is that fund used for?
Yeah. So it exists to fund one-time or unanticipated expenses or expansions of services. That's why it exists. It was previously allocated. So in the right column, money that was unspent is collected into a fund, contingency fund, right? As to your question though, I guess you could 100% fund all requests.
Except for those out of policy, and which would take a chunk out. I think there's a balancing act in there, right? If they ask for that much and they get that much this year, it sets a precedent of fee for the next year, and we won't have it to give them, right? It will be a significant fee increase, or a significant disappointment because of a not fee increase. I think the other piece that's really important is that quite often SUFAC chose not to fund things because there wasn't enough information, right? Or it was a one-time purchase. So they want a new tablecloth. Well, you don't need to budget that in and charge fees for that because we can cover that out of contingency. So a lot of what we didn't fund, they just have to fill out a 4-question request with a quote for a new banner or a new tablecloth, and they'll likely get it. A lot of the trips that they ask for, it's like, well, we want to go somewhere, but we don't know where, and we don't know for how long, we don't know what we're going to do, and we don't know what's going to cost, but we're going to ask for $8,000. We're like, great, we want you to go on a trip. There's not enough information there for us to trust that the money is spent and not just being taken out of students' pockets. So come back to us with a better plan and come to contingency where we have money that we can help you build a plan that works for you to take this trip. So it's not a no, it's a not right now in many of those cases. And I think part of it is always that educational opportunity too, right? To understand how you budget, where the money is coming from. It's not just money that's sitting there, right? It's student dollars being spent. You all understand that very well. Not every group that comes in requesting money understands where the money is really coming from.
It's a lot like having a savings account, right? You could go and spend it all, go buy a house. If you've got a lot of savings account, go buy a car, right? But then you don't have that. So then if something comes up, you don't have any savings to go off.
Having said all of that, and I think Nick really did a nice job in the last paragraph of your memo. There were people on the committee that were not interested in a full 5% increase, that they would rather take more out of contingency and look at a lower number. And ultimately, what we chose to do as a group, what they chose to do as a group, is say this is the max percent that we're looking at, which would get us a contingency amount of X being spent. But you all have to, you're gonna change some numbers on here, right? And so once we have the final picture, then we can all work together to figure out what that increase actually would be. And it could be higher.
Senator Marty?
So I got a couple questions. How can we grow SUFAC funding with different ideas of fundraising? So outside of campus, for either asking to pass legislation laws and things like that, from what SUFAC problems are, so I can write up to my local senators and legislatures on that with the student with Wisconsin government for the Wisconsin idea and broader picture, and private funding amongst that idea too. Furthermore, just in a broad for everyone, how can we join SUFAC? So I can propose or broadly speak out on applying knowledge for funding.
Are you looking to expand the contingency fund balance?
Yes, and also I will do more research upon SUFAC too, for my individuality as well.
SUFAC is largely, or seg fees are largely self-sustaining fees, right? Student government and SUFAC and leadership on campus are all part of making decisions of what that fee should be. There are many places where we could be talking to our representation and elsewhere, but I don't know that it's in the segregated fee bubble, because that money is literally what students say they're willing to pay for fees, and then what comes of those fees, and then what's left over in contingency is just what's left over to be spent on those same kinds of activities. So it's not a place to advocate necessarily for getting more money. It would be elsewhere if it allowed groups to have funding from other sources that would be outside of segregated.
What would outside of it?
To answer the second part of your question, about membership of SUFAC and how you can get involved. SUFAC is primarily appointed by each college gets representatives selected by the deans, and then there are WSG appointments, and there is a presidential appointment. So you can kind of see the breakdown of how people got involved. If you want to get more involved, you can feel free to reach out to some of your deans. You can talk to myself, President Bradley, or anyone who holds roles in the future, and they could also appoint. That process happens every 2 years, every year, depending on the position. Sometimes, most times, deans will reach out to a student. SUFAC normally goes through a process where they say, hey deans, we're looking for folks. Do you have any folks? And the deans say, we have folks, and then there are folks. So that's kind of how involvement looks like. In terms of how SUF funding comes about, I think King did a wonderful job of explaining that it's very, students pay in, and then that money immediately goes to student orgs. In terms of like writing legislators and attracting additional funding to university, which I think lots of folks in the room are very in favor of, that's probably a route we could take in a different manner, like talking about tuition, talking about fees, etc.
Ideally, I think.
Did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah. Ideally, what type of manner, if longer term thinking, probably I'm going to try to communicate to Nick and you to see what that longer term outside funding work will be in the broader aspect of it. But right now we want to, let me know if we're meeting for a follow-up on that.
Sounds good to me. Senator Leader?
Yes, I have a revenue question. So it was to my understanding, and Advisor Billigan had answered this to me, that the groups who gain revenue, where they spend it, they can spend it however they want because they earned it or they raised it themselves. I see a lot of zeros on revenues for most of these organizations, but I also see organizations that can develop revenue. Like, for example, the Beekeepers Club. I'm sure they could provide a revenue of, let's say, of course, honey that they produce from their beehives that we fund and, you know, give money to. You know, it'd be something to have back, but just, I guess, maybe if we moved towards subtracting, you know, I guess funding to organizations that can produce a revenue, and we know that they can produce a revenue, they just probably choose not to. You think that would kind of push them towards funding themselves a little bit and kind of sustaining themselves through their own revenue?
I think there are organizations who can fundraise that don't currently. I also think there are organizations that don't fundraise but can't fundraise. Like Beekeepers Club, I do know, you pulled that example up, but they're looking to develop how they can sell honey, and that's something they're working on. For others, I don't know, I have to look, but there are some that it doesn't really just doesn't really fit with how the organization functions to have fundraisers or request revenue or.
Many of the groups did not tell us about their revenue in their dollar amounts, but they also didn't put the things that they spend that revenue on in their budget.
Is that a requirement?
It's not. No. So the revenues that you see are revenues they intend to spend on what they presented to us, not on other things. So for example, we don't cover member t-shirts, period. We don't pay for things through SUF monies that are only going to benefit the members of the organization. But they may do a fundraiser and choose to give t-shirts to their group. They have every right to do that. We don't need to know about it. We don't need, right, other than following licensing rules and stuff outside of SUFAC. So it's very common. The other thing you'll likely notice when you're comparing requests to allocations is that if we cut trips because they ask for 5 trips, we likely also cut their revenue so that they can choose to still do that trip with the revenue. So we were taking on more responsibility financially for 1 trip because they asked for 3, and they can use those fundraising dollars elsewhere. So that's how you'll see a lot of the differences in revenue. But they do not have to disclose their revenue. They also do not have to deposit it into this account. If they don't make that revenue, they get less budget, right? Because we're subtracting that in order to determine the allocation. So really the allocation is the only one that we as SUFAC are ultimately proposing, recommending.
Sorry, yeah, so say we end up pulling from the contingency fund. Do we have plans to make sure that we don't have to continue drawing from the contingency fund year after year, especially since we know that people aren't for increasing the interest rate or what? The rate, whatever.
We haven't pulled out of contingency for a couple years for that very reason. We're cautious to do a 0% increase because ultimately we don't know how fast that contingency fund will go. We could have some very large requests that eat it all up. Something could happen to that money, right? So that's why we're still presenting a % increase, because we don't want to be stuck so far under where the fee, like where they're asking when we don't have any way to help. This is really based on them feeling that what they put forward in the dollar amount is really what is appropriate for funding for next year. The other thing I would tell you is remember that the contingency fund sweeps money that is unspent from every group at the end of every year. So we're seeing somewhere right now between 85 and 185,000 a year getting put back into the contingency fund. So that means groups were funded. We made students pay those fees, and then they're not getting spent by the groups for whatever reason that may be. So the contingency fund is right now fairly self-sustaining.
The reason we're asking for 5% increase and not no increase or something like that is for that concern. So we're not increasing it, or not increasing it this year, and then next year we're asking for a 20% increase.
I have a question. I'll just read go before I ask more. again, on behalf of the student organization, could you tell me a little bit about Army ROTC, why they didn't receive funding, what that process is like?
I can pull my notes, I can speak partially to it. Do you wanna start and I'll go get my?
Yeah, let me see if I can.
I'm just gonna play back up.
Of course. Let me find my notes.
In the meantime, I can ask another. Are you ready for another? Or
I mean, I can do that.
It's gotta get to R.
No, it's Army.
Oh, okay, okay.
Like, take for example, I'm working with other WSG students and I got more funding.
Are you okay, Nick, if I start and then you can fill it out?
I can start.
Sorry. They had a single representative, and you have access to these hearings, so you can watch them as well. They had a representative come in. They asked for $1,500 for 2 trips to Fort McCoy. Those were trips that were ID'd as those who were in the ROTC program classes would be taken to Fort McCoy for training exercises. So again, it's a credit-bearing requirement in order to participate. That was the 2 trips. He did indicate that those who are enlisted aren't in the class necessarily, and they're paid for by the military. But regardless, if I'm not in the class, I cannot go to those trips. And then they asked for $630 for sweatshirts.
Which is not allowed.
It was pretty clear based on what he shared. Again, a single person, what he shared to the committee, that it wasn't appropriate use of SU funds, at least to this SUVAC.
To exemplify why I asked a question like that, if a group reaches out to you as a senator, I think it is like your duty to kind of, those folks, particularly in the way we've pivoted to an adjustment process, don't get a forum to oftentimes stand up in front of us and ask these questions. They can ask them directly to the SUVAC chair, but if they choose to go through you, that is an example. And the reason I'm doing this is because folks have reached out to me trying to exemplify what that might look like.
If you get questions about why a recommendation was made a certain way, if you email sufec@uw.edu and ask why, but I can find the notes as to why. I don't have a great memory and I can't remember.
And I will repeat that oftentimes who you are talking to may not be the person who came in to make the request. And they're nervous when they make their request. So there's every possibility that somebody came in and did not fully represent or know the answers to the questions we were asking. So if there is new information that changes your mind or would change our mind, your mind collectively, then bring it forward. SUFAC's not looking to punish people. We're looking to fund good activities for students. Just sometimes things don't fit our criteria in this particular case, but it may not be accurate, right? It appears to be, but we don't know.
I have another question.
Sure.
Could you tell me a little bit about Tifu Cultural Ensemble, what that process looks like, why they received less funding?
Yeah, that one, they signed up for a hearing, right? Every student organization got a 20-minute hearing where they could talk about their organization, their budget, they could ask some questions. They signed up for that hearing, but did not show up to the hearing. So then we had to use our best judgment based off of what was submitted in the request. You know, it's a T, so if you want me to look for it, I can.
Not necessary.
Go through a binder. But I know one thing they asked for was fellowships and student wages, which is the math/student I'm going to recommend it. If you look, there's a lot of zeros there, and 3, 4, 5 groups for allocating that. Departments, and then WSG, and I don't know who's on the other department.
Radio station.
Radio station, right? Those are the only groups eligible for that. So you see that is highlighted yellow and zero because they have $500 there that are not eligible to receive funding. So it looks like Kim has a request there.
I do. So they really only gave us a paragraph and then they gave us the requested numbers, right, with no breakdown. The breakdown we could figure out was that they would need meeting food. So we gave them the guidelines of $240 for meeting food and $150 in supplies. They did not give us a breakdown in supplies, but that really appeared to be the primary resource that they were asking for. And then $100 in printing. They gave us no details about trips. They asked for 1,000, but we didn't have anything to base that on. And then again, on the wages, there was nothing there.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So folks understand kind of the back half of what folks reaching out to me looks like. I also sent 3 emails over Nick's way yesterday. I will send 2 more before night's end. Folks who have reached out to me asking questions. My general policy is I don't answer questions unless I ask them here and I got answers. So a few emails I will forward over to Nick. I will send them an email and say, hey, I've CC'd the SUPAC chair on this email. They'll probably be the one who's best to help you. Nick and I have had some of those interactions in the last 24 hours as well. Senator Reed.
I am looking over at the Z's column for both the singular and double Z's, and I noticed that there is only one request that was not met completely. I'm just curious if there is a Y for the winter guard, because I know that everyone else, you know, if they asked for 6,000, they were request the
So winter guard was not found not eligible for some funds. Because there is, you have to, apply. Audition to be in it, and if you're not picked for the audition, is there a way to be a member? That was not clear.
For their constitution, they were found ineligible because of that.
And so when SUPAC determines eligibility, which we have to do for every organization to receive funding, we look at their constitution and see if they're open to all students, and if they're not, very generally, typically not eligible. It's a whole lot more complex than that. If we got a couple hours, I can talk as a whole.
You do have the ability to meet as an organization, rewrite their constitution, and come back for contingency requests and be reconsidered or be reconsidered in future years. So it's not a no forever. It's a no based on their current processes.
And if you add up all of the club sports, that right column, all the double Z's, it's about $95,000. If you add up, get rid of revenue, go to council left expenses, add up all of those for just the double Z's, it's about $300,000. So club sports as a whole does a lot of fundraising. So they're only asking about 2/3 of their total, or a third of their total budget. 2/3 is fundraising. That's why SUPAC felt it was best to recommend that full amount, even though it's not the full amount, but the full amount they're requesting.
All of the requests were within followed guidelines as well.
Thank you.
Senator
Yeah, so for the new folks in the room, Mr. Chairman, could you just go over what, say an organization doesn't reach what they were allocated, where does that money go, and what does SUPAC do with the extra money that's left over and everything like that? That, just so that way the new folks in the room could understand.
Do you mean between the requests and the recommended?
What I mean is like the total, like say an organization doesn't use all their money. Let's just say like us as an org, we don't use all of our money. Where does that money go back into? Does that go back into contingency fund, or where does that go?
That's what the contingency fund is. It's an organization that's allocated $800, spends $400, and then the other $400 goes to the contingency fund. That's what that is. It's previously allocated unspent funds.
Senator Jay.
Oh, yeah, I just had a question regarding the Student Veteran Alliance. I noticed that there was a pretty steep decline between the requested and the allocated funds. I just want to know why that was the case.
Yeah, that hearing went to overtime. It was To CFAC, it seemed pretty unclear of what they were even asking for, so we spent most of their hearing just trying to figure out what the request was. And then we got deliberations. A lot of it was not eligible, so they were looking for challenge points. I know was one thing, which was
Sure.
800.
So they had originally requested $780. They came in saying, no, we want 2,000. They wanted a banner, one-time purchase, tablecloth, one-time purchase, money to decorate their truck for homecoming, which is against policy. We can't do stuff that is spent on homecoming. They funded money for the 4th of July decorations for the parade, ceremony decor for the veterans events, but then challenge coins are given to people as they graduate, primarily, and then they wanted shirts as well. So those were both things we felt were membership specific. So that's where the money came down. $250 for decorations and parade 4th of July stuff.
Thank you.
Senator Lang.
When considering funding for an organization, if that org requested funding the previous year, and was given it, and then didn't use all of it, and that funding was put back into the contingency fund, is that amount of money taken into consideration when allocating funding for the current year or the next year?
We can't.
Sorry, I get to
For
answer a
OGC.
question. For those who don't know, I'm vice chair of SUTAC. When we talk about viewpoint neutrality, that's part of what we have to think about. So we think about this year's budget only in the context of this year's budget, and we can't consider what they were allocated last year. We can't consider if they're a new organization. Those kind of things don't matter. It's just if they meet our eligibility requirements and if they're within guidelines, and then we go from there.
I can say that we do a review each spring of 20% randomly selected groups and look for if they spent according to what they had asked and if they followed the guidelines and so forth. And so we do a lot of education to make sure groups understand if rules are being followed, how to be followed.
Follow-up.
Senator Lang, follow-up?
Does anything happen if you find that an org misused funds?
I mean, if they did something illegal, it would be a conduct issue. But beyond that, it's primarily an educational opportunities. Not, I would say, in the financial sense, unless it was an org misconduct, and then it would depend on what happens through the misconduct process, which is not our decision.
If you'd like, you can go in the SUPAC policy and control F, like misuse, or there's a whole line item for it. I was looking at it the other day. It talks about what happens. It essentially is not a SUPAC issue at all. It moves past SUPAC almost effective immediately upon them identifying.
Very much like a student org issue in general, it goes right to where it needs to go, right?
All right. Any other questions? And I know it's late, but I'm going to give some time for everyone to really think about it. Any other questions? Senator Marty?
So this is piggybacking off of Nathan's statement that he said previous time. So how he believe that we need to make more funding work. I kind of have a couple ideas. First, what I would be see about you know what? I'm gonna go do that later and just ask for a broader time next meeting. You know what? I'll do it that way.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, if you look up in the SUP policy, budget accountability, that's what you can control F to find out what happens if SUP groups have misused their funds. Just for clarification. Any other questions? For once? For twice?
I just have something I'd like to share.
Yeah, please.
If you are looking at the paperwork that's in the binders, and you're working your way through it, and you look at the spreadsheet, you will see places where numbers are different. And I wanted to make sure you understood why there are some numbers that are different. The spreadsheet is the correct numbers based on their hearings and conversations we had with them. So for example, I talked about the Student Veteran Alliance. When you look at their paperwork, it says $780, but when they came in, they said no, $2,000, right? So there were some that were changed because of conversation. Some were also changed because the Excel workbook had a couple of errors in the math. And so they would say they needed 8,000 in travel, but really once we fixed the math problem, it was 7,000, right? So if there are adjustments, it was not based on opinion, not based on SUFAC decision. It was strictly mathematical fixing so that it was accurate, or it was based upon new information provided during their hearings. I just don't want to cause further confusion and make you think like we were changing numbers, because that's not at all the case.
We switched to a new application style this year. In previous years, it had just been, submit a paragraph of what your travel details, submit a paragraph of your supply details. And there was a lot of just fixing math. This is the spreadsheet this year, and as all things, the first time you do it, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to make errors. We caught most of them, and I have a lot of feedback for whoever is unlucky enough to hold my title next year.
We will not spend that much time copying.
Senator Lang?
Are we still in question period?
Yep, absolutely we are.
Really quickly, can you go over the 3,000 that WSG did not receive?
Yeah. That was a motion made by a member of SUFAC to not include, if you look at the request, and the rule was recommended, the difference is board bonuses, 3,000. The reason that was cut from the recommendation was due to lack of detail. We didn't know who would hold those roles, we didn't know who would do more bonuses before, we didn't know what the amount of bonus was, how many people it was. So SUFAC was like, or SUFAC made the recommendation that WSG would come back to contingency with the details of who would be getting what bonus, or why they're deserving of it. Not to say that they're not deserving of it, but just kind of further prove the point that they are. And that would be a contingency fund topic. Request, I guess?
That's the only student org that reached out to me that I didn't ask a question about, and that I probably, I can tell you I definitely won't make a motion about, because I would be, it would be a problem of neutrality if I made a motion about that. And I would advise the body as best I can that if you were a part of building that budget request, because we're all in the room here together, think about what the neutrality of that might look like. And ask some questions to our advisor and make sure you're, but I just want, so everybody's on a level playing field. That is the only organization who reached out to me that I have not asked a question about tonight. And the president of that organization is very aware.
My take on the conversation was that in the process, whenever we didn't know where the money was going, we didn't feel like it was something to spend on at that point in time. That's what I think the committee applied to this as well, is that what happens if they don't give them out? Now we've spent 3,000 student dollars that aren't going anywhere, but back to contingency. I really think that's where a lot of the decision came from. I'm speaking based on observation, though. I cannot speak to all of the committee.
I agree with Ken's comments about how the conversation went for the deliberations allowed us to.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none. Okay, before we move on, quick round of applause, please. And a quick round of applause for our SUFAC. Particularly some of our advisors in the room who stayed until hour of our Lord 9:26. So you're please safe drives home. You're welcome to head out. Chairman Treatise here.
I would just like to thank all the members of SUFAC who are in the room. starting with our Vice Chair, Mark Smith, our Advisor, Ian Carson, our Vice Chair of Education Outreach, Abby Reiser, one of our other advisors, Nicole Cervantes, all the way around, our WSG one-year appointment, Boston Reaver, and to a lesser extent, Isaiah Wilson for being executed.
It's true, it's a lesser extent.
I want to thank all of them. It could not be possible without their work. Thank you.
Don't clap too much, because I get the sense that we'll be clapping for those folks again next week. So thank you all. Before we move on from SUFAC-ish discussions, essentially, I'm just going to reference back to this wonderful pink sheet. SUFAC will present their recommendations at WSG meeting. At the following WSG meeting, we are now in SUFAC world. Our eyes are on the following WSG meeting, where we can do three things. Does anybody know what the three things are?
Accept, reject, and modify.
Wonderful. We can accept, reject, or modify. So, this is the last. I just need a little bit right here. If a student organization reaches out to you and says, we in some way feel like we would like to make an adjustment. What that looks like is you can make an adjustment on their behalf. So you would motion to the floor. I know I already went over this once, I just want to go over it one more time so that you can communicate this to any organizations that might reach out to you. Say, you want to change organization XYZ from the recommended A to a new B, whether that be more dollars or less dollars. You would say, I move to change XYZ's recommended funding from A to B. That's what that might look like. It would be seconded, we would move into discussion, and we would vote. And if it reached a 2/3 majority, that would be then what we could vote on. That change, what you change in that recommendation would be what we vote on. So if there are any student organizations that you feel like after looking at this document you want to go chat with, or they feel like they want to go chat with you, that's how I would handle that process. If you have any other questions, please come chat with me. If you are a SUFAC expert and you are like, oh my goodness, there's a terrible process error, please come chat with us. Although I find that unlikely because SUFAC is really good at their job. So, Deputy Speaker Patrice, real quick.
If you have any questions about a student organization, they're specific as to why something was cut, you can ask on the floor. If you want a better answer, you should email sufac@uw.edu so that I can get you the full reason why, just so that I can have time to look at our videos and watch our discussions and look at all the documents. If you want to know a complete answer.
That also helps give that organization a more complete answer. If you do it via email and you forward it to the SUFAC chairman, they'll be very looped in. You don't have to play a game of telephone where you ask the SUFAC chairman and then you go to that organization. You can loop them in and they can get answers directly from SUFAC, which is ideal. Thank you again, SUFAC advisors. Drive home safe. With that, we are going to move on to item A of new business. S252603 resolution strengthening shared governance through necessary and essential revision to Section 8 of the standing rules of the Whitewater student government. That's the longest bill title I've ever heard.
It is a long title, but it is necessary and essential to come across what we're trying to get at. So it's standing rules changes, which we all love to see, I know. But the Whitewater student government recognizes the importance of clear and articulate governing structures to ensure accountability, transparency, and effective representation of all students on both campuses. And the ROC Student Government Association historically represented students on the ROC campus, understanding the needs and viewpoints of their student body. And the Whitewater student government appreciates and we want to continue promoting that existence. Understanding that, right, we also have standing rules that are not super clear, and to try to clear them up a little bit, we did that. So we have something that is kind of relevant, but it is relevant to a later section, but this is Rocky County Advisory Board stuff and the SUFAC, and it is both of those together. So that's adding the SUFAC chair as a member of the board, or ex officio member, non-voting. and then just kind of cleaning up what that language looks like. Further defining what advisory councils look like, if you scroll a little bit, it's in red. That one sentence in F there is what currently defines advisory councils, which is not great and not a lot. So if we want to add another one, what does that look like? We have really no structure. So if you go back up, all of the yellow here would be the new structure of how advisory councils would be organized, right? So it's the definition, how they have governing documents, right? How they're composed, what the leadership looks like.
I'll add, a lot of this was housed under RSGA specifically, and when looking at it, Nick and I realized, well, these are things that are applicable to all advisory councils should we have more one day. So it makes more sense to put that before we get into specific advisory councils. Taking a little photo here.
It's just rare that you present.
It looks like we removed a lot of what's under RSGA. You see it's a lot of red, not a lot of yellow. But all of that yellow is moved up ahead because it's applicable for all advisory councils. And one thing I would draw your attention to is the chair of the Rock Student Government Association Council is a submitter on this legislation. Andy Holmbeck and I sat down for about 2 hours and went over every change being made. And Andy, before they left today, showed they were in full support of the legislation.
Yeah, like if you look here, the RSGA shall maintain its own internal governing document. You scroll up, advisory councils shall establish and maintain their own governing documents, right? So a lot of this has been very generic. So let's say we want to establish a graduate student council, right? I'm not saying that's happening, I'm just blowing an example out. It'd be really easy to find out what that looks like without having to just copy a lot of this language. So then all of this stuff under RSGA is specific to RAC. To just kind of sum these up, right? Advisory councils provide recommendations, guidance, and input to WSG from a specific group of constituents. Establish their own governing documents, refer to the bylaws. That's just to not have confusion with WSG documents. So WSG has a constitution, WSG has standing rules, which is already confusing enough. If we add a RAC RSGA constitution, RSGA standing rules, that's then 4 documents. RAC students are governed under, which is a lot, and I would not want to be governed under that. So just kind of simplify things. Their constitution would be our constitution. Their bylaws is what's specific to RAC. So initial approval of proposed amendments to bylaws will be reviewed by the CRC and require final approval by the Senate. Clerk maintains an easily accessible online record of all bylaws. That's like how the current constitution and standing rules are. Meetings must comply with Wisconsin meeting laws and transparency standards. Quorum is defined in the council bylaws. We don't want to define that for them. Let advisory councils define how they exist.
Right. We can go over those. One section that RSGA Chair Andy Holmbeck wanted to add in. You can see under B, membership, there's the chair, there's the vice chair. And so the yellow is what we've added. So the chair shall serve as president of the RSGA student organization. Students on the RSGA are concerned about how do they promote and get interest in folks running for positions. If they say, hey, do you want to run for chair? Might not know what that means. Say, hey, do you want to run for Student Government Association president? It might jive and click with more people. That's why we added it in here. When you look at their structure as an advisory council, they are the chair, they are the vice chair, they're the secretary. They also kind of have student organization. On that front, they'd be president, vice president, secretary, treasurer.
That's not really a change, it's just kind of
Clarification.
further clarifying what that looks like.
And you can see it's a little more clear how we removed these sections. Vice chair / vice president, right? We included it in the body itself.
And that says for all positions, right? A lot of this is clerical and just what is a WSG affiliated committee? It's an internal committee, right?
It's correcting some errors, minor errors.
You can say minor. You can say minor. And then the policy and procedures for all segregated university fee allocation at the RAC campus, both eligible and non-eligible fees are covered under the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater segregated university fees policy, process, and procedure document. You'll never guess what that document is. So,
Oh my God.
it's all under one document, and that's how it currently is. To define that. This might turn some heads, the failure to do so, not following open meeting laws may result in the decision being ruled invalid. In the same way that if we elect a speaker, but have no record of that existing anywhere, did we elect a speaker?
The speaker is lost.
But if, did we elect a speaker? I don't know. So what we should do is have another meeting, redo that election, just so there's record of it, so you can prove that this speaker was elected, this person was elected. So initially it will turn some heads. That's why it's not like we want to rule every election, everything they do is valid. We just want there to be a record. SUFAC. If you scroll all the way down, all of this is kind of how SUFAC currently operates. And it is not very clear, right? Appointments will be made by the Senate through an electoral system with a nomination from the Senate required and a simple majority approval of the Senate for the candidate to gain the appointment. I will say as a former WSG appointment to SUFAC, that's not how I was appointed. The speaker appointed me and I was confirmed by the Senate. I looked and it hasn't been done that way since COVID, I believe. At least half a decade. I realize I have better information, but it has not been done that way in a while.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. As long as I've been here, as long as you've been here.
It's only 5 years.
Yeah.
I know, it's only 5 years. I'll do it again.
We're vets.
But it kind of further clarifies what everything is, right? So, every appointment other than one by the Senate should be for one academic term, starting with the academic commencement the spring semester. Kind of defining what the term is, because that's not defined right now. If the Senate appointment for 2 years, if that's vacated, the replacement term starts for 2 years. When I was appointed to SUFAC as a sophomore, I took over. The person who had that is in the second term. I took it over, and actually took was 2 terms. So it's kind of just clarifying a lot of that stuff.
Field the questions.
Field the questions.
Are we in question? I'm just asking.
Yeah.
So my question would be, why didn't this go through CRC before hitting the floor on the Senate? Why did it just go straight to the Senate? And that, I'm just curious in that.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead.
It did go before CRC. I have CRC recommendations to provide. I've just been awaiting instructions.
I just didn't know.
I will say it did go through CRC, and then we sat on it for a little bit, and there have been some edits. I would call them minor. It's probably in your purview. Adding Andy as a submitter was one of those. We had a senator resign, who was the sponsor. And their name was removed.
Main reason we said it is to give me time to meet with Andy Holmeck.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
But it did go through CRC, and we yield the pros and cons.
Yeah, pros and cons. I'm glad we, thank you for bringing me back in line. Appreciate that. Senator Carter, I appreciate that.
Pros and cons have been updated to reflect the current legislation, so any pros or cons that were addressed prior to hitting the floor are no longer in this list. So I have pros then cons, then overall organizational impact. I'll start with the pros. They really like the ideas about what an advisory council is. It gives Rock County the ability to do their own elections. They like the choice of bylaws rather than a constitution, which may cause conflicting power struggles. And they appreciated the more detailed SUFAC section because it was reflective of the current process. The one con listed is that the title of the legislation could be further clarified to define the important work that it does. And then overall organizational impact thoroughly defines advisory councils, vital to enshrining current practices and how things have operated into policy, will ensure communication between RSGA and WSG, and makes RSGA and WSG's relationship more collaborative and detailed. I yield.
Back to any questions? Mr. Martin, please.
Point of inquiry, is this an internal memos about how Rock County and WSG work together for how processes work, better formation of that, and better communication?
It is an SBIL, which means it is doing something, and it is internal, which means no chancellor response is required. So it is a piece of legislation focusing on our standing rules. So yes, it is internal. Yes, it goes over some RSG stuff, and yes, it also goes over some stuff. Senator Knapp.
For 8.4 AA, it says that advisory councils do not hold independent legislative authority. Can you elaborate on that?
Yep, and actually, Chair Andy Holbeck and I talked about this one a lot. It means they cannot pass WSG legislation. That is this body's job. And so you'll see a little later on, we talk about how they have the option, right? Any student on campus can submit legislation before this body as long as they have 2 senators who want to sponsor it, correct? RSGA has a little fun thing they can do. They can write that legislation, endorse it themselves before sending it to the Whitewater Student Government Senate. So what that section means is they cannot pass WSG legislation without the Senate passing it, if that makes sense. Right? They have the ability to draft and endorse Rock County specific WSG resolutions for final approval by the WSG Senate.
Any other questions? Senator Knapp, follow?
It wasn't follow-up, but it is.
Completely different one, that's fine too.
It says in section 8.4D that council members are subject to WSG's internal evaluations committee for violations. Are they given any representation on the IEC directly, or is this something that they would have to go through the existing members?
You are getting a lot of good questions here. I talked about this with Andy for a long time as well. It is my understanding that the Rock Student Government Association used to have their own IEC and their own internal process, and it led to I forgot the best words here. It was difficult for them to maintain and to have enough people in the group to adjudicate unbiasedly. And so it was kind of a recommendation, like, well, you can use our IEC, and Andy was like, that's great, right? So it eliminates some of the internal issues they may have. I will tell you that we do have seats open for our Rock County specific senators who can be appointed to the committee. I believe that it's whoever the speaker is at the time would appoint a Rock County student should there be a Senate seat filled to do that, especially if there is a Rock County issue coming up. But it was included because they've had lots of issues having their own internal IEC process.
As chair, not really as chair, I'm probably chair of IEC, not really specific, but I think it's probably best to not have a separate body do it. Right, if WSG is investigating WSG and finds no wrongdoing, not great. If WSG is investigating RSGA and finds no wrongdoing, that's a whole lot better. So it's just kind of having separate spaces, so it's not someone investigating themselves.
Any other questions? I have a few. Am I missing one? Pranav?
Yeah, I was wondering why you have chosen to remove WSG from a lot of the titles, such as WSG clerk or speaker.
There is only, within the Whitewater Student Government umbrella that includes RSGA, there is only one clerk, there's only one speaker, there is only one constitution, there are only one standing rules, right? So it's, you felt it was unneeded as there's only one thing to be referring to.
Follow?
Yeah, as RSGA can name its own representatives, is it necessary that RSGA cannot have a speaker or a clerk?
What do you mean?
So you're saying they could name all of their representatives as speakers? Sure.
Or if they choose to have a speaker,
Yep.
as an additional representative.
Sure, I'd say first they'd have to come and they'd have to change these standing rules that comes before you. They'd also have to submit to our CRC, which I imagine would be pros and cons that come up. Right, they cannot add another leadership position unless it's changed in our standing rules. And if that's what they want to do, I will help them submit that change, but at the present moment, there is nothing written in. There is no duplicate positions or duplicate titles of documents at the moment.
To, I guess, be clearer in our governing documents, I thought it'd be best to get rid of all duplicate titles. So like, we don't have two presidents in WSG. We have one president, we have an RCA chair. We have a couple chairs, but that's not specific, right? If there's multiple speakers, it only creates more confusion. And so that's why it was.
Same thing with like the bylaws. Right, this body will never have multiple versions of standing rules. Right, we'll have a constitution, standing rules, and the councils will have their own bylaws, right, to eliminate some of that confusion.
The same thing with clerk, right? You have one clerk, say, clerk less.
Committees and councils have secretaries. Right, so that's why we put it in, that was our reasoning.
I have a few. I'll start with, why is the SUPEC chair added as an ex officio member to the executive board?
Fantastic question. We actually have, the submitters would like to put a content change to that section, so maybe we think there should be further collaboration. SUPEC is a part of our student government. We think they should
If you're looking at submitting a content change.
Yeah, I mean, I can try my best to answer why it was included originally. There will be a content change here
Not necessary.
momentarily.
One moment. So, in the SUFAC section, well, before we go to the SUFAC section, in Rock County campus SUFAC process, so before you actually get to the SUFAC process, the policy and procedure for all segregated university fee allocation committee, that line, is that meant to speak for both the Rock County campus and the Whitewater campus in regards to what is in that policy is superior? Is what is in that policy take precedent, or does what's in this document take precedent?
If I could direct you to the WSG Constitution, section Article 6, section governing document authority. We have a hierarchy in there. Standing rules will come before any policies we have.
Okay.
But this is how it currently works, is this document has it all. I will say I have a lot of issues with this document, one of them being this is what the Rock applicable section looks like. It's not very expensive.
I'm sure the chair will be able to rewrite a policy.
I believe the SUFAC chair has a long list of things they'd like to.
My interpretation as written is it says if you're looking for policy procedure about SUFAC at Rock County campus, look at the policy. That's all it says.
That's kind of how it works. Like, if you want to know what the speaker of Whitewater Student Government does, you look at what the speaker section. If you want to know what the Rock County campus SUFAC looks like, you look at the Rock County campus SUFAC section with anyways. It's kind of how it works.
Thank you.
Same.
So, in the things that have been deleted from the SUFAC portion, I guess I have two questions. One of them is, as best your knowledge as SUFAC chair, is this still the process written in the process document, or is this being removed from the process? Namely, N, from what has been removed, so for contingency requests, recommendations of less than $5,000, the contingency request will be forwarded to the WSG speaker. Is that still in SUFAC policy?
It is. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere.
It can't be changed. It's in there now. Like, right now. They can't change it through the documentation.
Yeah.
They can change it through the ledge, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, if it's in SUFAC policy, then it wouldn't.
I think it says 10,000 in the policy.
It's great.
In the policy? Or that's just what it does?
Again, free from parliamentarian, page 3.
That's defining the speaker's role.
Oh, might be under there. Again, not a great policy. I don't keep my breath on that.
Yeah, it's. Not too bad.
So we have a little control. I don't know what we do. Someone, Jen, can you type 10?
The number 10?
The number 10.
The word 10. 0, 4, 4.
Maybe a comma.
I don't have the mouse.
You said
You can use that if you want.
So yeah, so in our policy, it says 10,000. Standing rules say 5,000.
This supersedes your standing rules.
Yeah. Well, it's
So-
not.
Because it's a campus policy. You're not the only people that get to approve it. Honest.
I mean,
I'm evil. I'm just saying that's the truth.
So,
I believe there was much debate to be had around that topic.
I understand, but at this point it's listed as a university
Seeing two
policy.
different numbers, wanted to clarify.
I'm pro,
And so, if it's only listed one
is it
spot,
true that I'm pro get rid of it?
I can't speak for yourself.
Probably, I just wanna clarify.
Maybe look internally and decide that for yourself.
I should do it. Any other questions? Senator Lyon.
For clarification, section 8.4 only outlines the RSGA and not advisory councils as a whole.
Nope, so 8.4 covers all advisory councils. 8.4G, is RSGA only.
So everything before that is all of them, and then you get to rock.
It used to be 8.4A was rock. And a lot of that new yellow under 8.4 was housed in there, so we brought it out for clarity.
If you look at how our current standing rules do committees, it's the same way. So if you go to section 8, and if I can find it here, I will. Give me 1 second here, everybody. The internal committees, all of these are applicable to all committees, and then WSG will have an academic affairs, WSG will have a communications, right? So it's the same instruction. Does that answer the question? Yes, exactly.
Follow-up? Yes. Should another new advisory council be created with this? Would that require another standing rules change then?
Yes. Here we go to H now. H would be.
Graduate Student Advisory Council. Graduate Student Advisory Council, whatever.
Any other questions? From once, from twice? Seeing none, with that, we're gonna move into clerk votes. Clerk votes time. Other content change? President Bradley?
Submitters would like to submit a content change of section 6, 8.1B to now read. Let me get some 6.1. So it'll now read 6.1, executive. And it'll say, quote, the executive board consists of up to 6 directors, unless the Senate approves more, and the clerk. The speaker, advisor, and RSGA chair will serve as ex officio members of the executive board. The SUFEC chair shall be extended an invite to all executive board meetings.
Are you, I mean, I'm assuming you're taking that as friendly?
Yes, that is friendly.
Let's say can or may. Sorry,
For what?
I listened for the SUFEC.
Shall.
Shall, okay. Sorry, just was trying to keep up.
Any other content? Friendly content? Unless you want the.
I'll take it as friendly.
Okay.
Speakers will go.
Okay, I'll. Any other content changes? Senator Purnell?
Under 8.4, GBI2E.
Nice job, Senator.
Once more.
That's going to be the, yep, you got it right there,
Okay.
Vice Chair. Adding in the words, and RSGA Chair after the Senate or the comma.
Oh, adding in confirmation.
By the Senate.
So read it as it would read with your amendment.
Yeah.
That would
So
help
I
us.
would say,
Okay.
only in the case of a lack of interest in the position, the speaker may appoint with consultation and confirmation by the Senate and RSGA chair, a vice chair who meets all required criteria.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking for a second? Second by Senator Carter. Discussion? Senator Trump.
I just suggested it because it would give the RSGA chair a little bit more of an opportunity to have a say of who they're working with directly. They're going to be working hand in hand with this person. And it's, if they are added into this conversation, it's less of a outside body that is imposing a position on someone and more of a collaboration.
Any other discussion? I have some. Sounds rad. Any other discussion? Senator.
I would say the RSGA chair is already in that conversation, because only in the case of lack of interest in the position. And what that looks like to me is the RSGA chair has tried to find someone to accept to be the vice chair, but hasn't been unable to do so because RSGA has their own process to elect a vice chair, right? We saw it this year. But if 0 people are interested in that, then only then can WSG come in to that process.
Submit.
Historically, there's also been times when they're unable to get a chair or a vice chair, and so they've kind of been at an impasse. I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I think we just have to work out what happens if we're unable to appoint a chair. And I will just add, we've gone through this all with Andy. So it has had representation to get to this point.
Any other discussion? Who wants? Twice, seeing none, without moving to a roll call vote on the amendment. A vote of aye will be a vote to change the current highlighted text from what it is to read. No.
Only in the case of a lack of interest in the position, the speaker may appoint with consultation and confirmation by the Senate and RSGA chair, a vice chair who meets all required criteria.
A vote of nay will be a vote against. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, would you please call the roll?
Senator Carter,
Aye.
Senator Janetti,
Aye.
Senator Gielich,
Aye.
Senator Lang,
Aye.
Senator Lieber,
Aye.
Senator Majors,
Pass.
Senator Marty,
Pass.
Senator Patricus,
Nay.
Senator Purnell,
Aye.
Senator Reberg, Senator Reyes,
Aye.
Senator Schrocknagel,
Nay.
Senator Thompson,
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde,
Nay.
Senator Wheatman,
Nay.
Senator Majors,
Nay.
Senator Marty,
No.
Speaker Wilson.
Aye. In a vote of 9-7, the amendment fails. Any other comments? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none? Wonderful. Thank you very much. Are there any clerk letters? Any clerk letters? Going once? Going twice?
I don't know, it might have been
Submitter?
mentioned in the content change we submitted, but 8.1 here under section 6 should be 6.1. Just so there.
Okay. We can have that reflected. Any other clerk letters? Going once? Going twice? Seeing none, wonderful. With that, it'll be included in unfinished business next week. So we are on to item, oh my gosh, it's item, I typed it wrong. No one noticed I typed it wrong in the agenda. Item A2. Senate approval of vice presidential nominee Abby Riser. President Bradley, and I don't know, I'm doing a trio thing up there, what are we doing?
Just the candidate myself.
Okay.
Thank you. Alrighty, so the current vice president will be graduating at the end of the semester. And so as you all know from studying and reading the standing rules, should there be a vacancy in the position, we need to appoint and approve another vice president. That is what we are doing today. I got my little prepared remarks here. Some leaders make a contract, and then some leaders fundamentally elevate the work of everyone around them. Abby is the latter. Many of you have served alongside her, whether as Director of Technical Affairs or when she served as Vice President under former President Angelina Russo. And you've seen firsthand the steadiness, compassion, and quiet strength she brings to every role. For 3 years, Abby has been the person students go to and they feel unheard in the classroom. The person our cabinet turns to for unbiased clarity, and the person I rely on when the work gets heavy. She leads with empathy and delivers with excellence. She shows up fully, listens deeply, and approaches every challenge. It's the kind of care and competence that strengthens our organization every single day. I have served with Abby since our early stage in student government, and even then it was obvious. She is someone you can trust instinctively, someone whose judgment you rely on, someone who brings out the best in the people around her. Her return to the vice presidency isn't just a continuation of her service, it's a restoration of one of the most effective leaders this body has ever seen. Tonight, I'm asking you to appoint Abby Riser as Vice President of the Whitewater Student Government and Student Body Vice President. Not because of what she has done, but because of who she is, a leader of integrity, a partner in the work, and a fierce advocate for the students we serve. I will yield.
Wonderful. With that, we're into questions. I've got a few. If I remember correctly, you could totally be wrong. I was on a sabbatical at the time. President Bradley, you worked under Vice President Riser. Could you tell me what that was like?
It was fantastic. It was about 3 or 4 months when Vice President Abby Riser was my boss. She was a fantastic boss. Clearly, I'm recommending her to meet some folks again, so couldn't have done all that bad, huh?
Director Riser, if you'd be willing to talk about it, could you talk about what you see the role of the Vice President like, how you held it in the past, and if there's anything that you want to change from the last time you held the role to now take the role? I mean, apart from the fact that you're the best seated president.
Yeah, okay. So how I see this role, really, I see it as using my experience that I've had over the past 2.5 years and leveraging that as I help support the e-board. Of course, I've gotten the opportunity to work with all of them very closely, especially Olivia, as she's the associate for academic affairs. So I want to continue to support the work that we foresee happening going forward into the next semester, but then I also really want to be there for the other e-board members as well. And then as for the work that I did when I was a sophomore, I helped plan the banquet, and so that has transitioned to the gala now. So I have extensive experience with planning, with event planning, you could say, because I also simultaneously planned the instructor awards that same year at the same time. So I know how to support Olivia in the instructor awards, but then I also know how to plan a big event. So I plan on continuing to do that. And then what I would say, as it has been 2 years, so what I would say I would do different. So I'm going into this with a whole semester ahead of me being the vice president. So really I'm excited to use this opportunity as more growth in the people management area because, like I said, I will be supporting the e-board, and so I also want to learn from them as well, as I always have been doing. I've been learning from all of you. You all look great. But I really want to be more of a support system than I was when I was a sophomore.
deputy speaker Patrice.
You've seen a lot, you've been around for a while, and seen a lot of different vice presidents, including yourself, right?
Yeah.
How has their different leadership styles shaped how you want to be a vice president? How has it shaped how you don't want to be
Really good question.
10 o'clock at night.
That's a good question. Yeah, so I've been under 2 vice presidents now, and they're both amazing people. One of them is sitting here. I would say, you know, like every single person in this room, we all have our strengths, and then we all have areas where we can learn from each other's strengths. So I would say specifically because Parker's here, I admire his ability, his social skills. He's super great at talking with people and really making people feel welcome. So with our space here, the gallery, people come in. It can be a little bit intimidating, as I remember my freshman year coming in to be a senator. And so I can see how he welcomes people in and makes them feel like this is the process, this is what you're gonna do, and I really want to embody that as well. And then my sophomore year, the president was very energetic and very enthusiastic, and so I want to continue that as well.
I have a question, particularly for Director Reiser, if you do want to answer. A key role of the vice president is serving on a non-alcohol leadership team.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about how any of your past experiences maybe have readied you for such an experience?
Yeah, so I am currently on the NALT team. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm asking a question.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to talk about that. So I'm currently on the NALT team as the, well, in my director position, but so sorry, I was thinking. So in that room, there's many of us in there too, and really you have to approach the process of looking through the budgeting with an unbiased perspective. And so when we're in those deliberations, we all hold different opinions. At the end of the day, we are there to support students, do what's best for students, but we all have different opinions on what that means. And so in my experience, I think that one of my strengths has been advocating for my ideas, but then doing it in a respectful manner. And so this semester, I helped with the communication and communicating with Kristen Philhauer about some of the conversations that we had had. So in a professional manner.
Mr. Speaker, Abby's very humble. She was selected by the rest of us to communicate on our behalf, and some of us were getting a little heated. So definitely you can keep it cool. I'll add to that.
I'll need to advise the building for a nod, if possible.
I was like, absolutely, missed that part.
But I won't say who.
I have one last question. Does anybody have any other questions? And my question will be the last question. I think for a lot of folks in the room tonight, it's pretty clear how, as a leader, you're going to be able to offer support to the academic affairs team. How do you think that'll translate to WSG clerk, to communications, to student affairs? How do you think you're going to be able to balance offering support to an entire e-board instead of just to academic affairs?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm actually really excited about for this opportunity. I've been in the academic affairs role for 2.5 years, so I have extensive experience with that, and now I'm trusting Olivia, and she's great, so that's going to be a really good transition, but I'm excited because it is something new, and so going into my last semester here at Whitewater, I'm always looking for ways that I can push myself, and so I think that this is a great opportunity to do that, and the student affairs, communications, helping Sadie with clerk,
projects. So all of that will challenge me with my time management. Of course, I'm way better when I'm super busy. So continuing to keep myself busy is crucial.
Didn't say that was going to be the last question, but I'll allow an extra deputy speaker.
How do you plan to support and or accomplish continuing the stories and or practices of current roles, such as vice president? How do you plan to continue that to the next vice president? How do you plan to continue supporting the director to director of academic affairs this year and or next?
Yeah, so I'm gonna continue to provide my knowledge to Olivia. So that's the transition from me being the director to her being the director. And then I want to talk to Parker about his experience being the VP, and so that I can have more insight into what that'll look like. Is that answering your question? I don't know if that is.
I have one thing. The reason we're doing this now, to allow for a transition period, right? Historically, the new vice president wasn't put up until there was a resignation or the seat was vacant. We are planning ahead. Parker has not graduated yet, if you knew that, but we have I don't know if Senator Carter could tell me how many days left until commencement.
25, I believe.
25 days left.
Oh my goodness.
So buckle up, you're stuck with these gentlemen for a little while longer. But we're doing it now, we're doing it early, so that there is a transition period where Abby can meet with the current vice president.
And if I can add really quick, I've already, in anticipation of like a year, so over the summer, I started building my transition materials in anticipation of me graduating. So for the instructor awards, it's like a 4 to 5 page document of very detailed explanation of what the director can anticipate doing. And so I even have like email prompts that you could the future director could copy and put in. Of course, changing dates and stuff like that. But, and that document can be passed on beyond when Olivia's here. So I have taken a lot of time to build those materials. I also have gone through the advising work that we've done for the past 2.5 years, career services, and I've kind of like put together an update document with key accomplishments from each of those that can continue to be added onto with the remaining directors, so that dating back to 2023, there is an updated document of the progress that's been made in key academic areas. And I would love to do that with the vice president role as well.
Wonderful. With that, we'll move to a roll call vote on the approval of the vice presidential nominee, Abby Reiser. A vote of aye will be a vote in favor of approval of the candidate. A vote of nay will be a vote against. Senator Clark, Senator Brown.
Point of clarification, what is the, when is the term for Elder?
It's a great question. It wasn't communicated to me.
December 14th.
The vice president graduates December 14th.
Current vice president graduates December 14th.
13th.
And that's when
term will
the-
start.
So that's when he, yeah.
Okay, the term begins on the 14th. It runs through the current term that all executives and executive board members are currently in. And the last day is June 30th.
Madam Clerk, when you're ready, would you please call the roll?
Senator Janetti,
Aye.
Senator Gielig,
Aye.
Senator Lang,
Aye.
Senator Lieber,
Aye.
Senator Majors,
Aye.
Senator Marty,
Aye.
Senator Patricus,
Aye.
Senator Purnell,
Aye.
Senator Reber,
Aye.
Senator Reyes,
Aye.
Senator Schwarzkopf,
Aye.
Senator Thompson,
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde,
Aye.
Senator Wheaton,
Aye.
Senator Carter,
Aye.
Speaker Wilson.
Aye. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce you all to the almost newest vice president
Vice President.
Vice President-elect of the Whitewater Student Government. Congratulations, Dan. With that, we will move on to item 7, approval of the Director of Academic Affairs nominee.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you realized, but I just appointed Abby to become the next vice president, and so we will have a vacant Director of Academic Affairs position.
We currently have a vacant academic.
As of
December.
Oh, yeah.
Speaker, please. And I got my little story again here, so I migrate this way. Tonight, I am proud to nominate Olivia to serve as our next Director of Academic Affairs. Over the past semester, Olivia has distinguished herself as a thoughtful, solutions-oriented leader whose commitment to students is both genuine and consistent. Whether she's helping a student navigate an academic concern or working with faculty to resolve a complex issue, Olivia approaches every challenge with patience, professionalism, and a deep sense of purpose. She brings a rare combination of empathy and analytical skill. She listens carefully, asks the right questions, and follows through until the job is done. What stands out most is her integrity. Olivia does not seek the spotlight, she seeks solutions. She cares about outcomes, about fairness, and about making sure every student feels supported in their academic journey. Having worked closely with her for the past semester, I know she brings the steadiness, clarity, and student-centered mindset this role demands. She is prepared, she is capable, and she's ready to step into this responsibility with excellence. Tonight, I respectfully ask for your support in appointing Olivia as the Director of Academic Affairs. Our students and our organization will be stronger because of it. Madam Speaker, I will yield.
Any questions? Once? Deputy Speaker Richard.
How has your time, both as an associate director of academic affairs, more so as a student from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, prepared you for this role?
Yeah, so obviously I'm really excited to be nominated for this role. I like to say my time at Whitewater, I have been able to try so many different things, like all over. Like if you saw what I was doing last semester, there was times where we were at WSG meeting and I'd have to leave to go shift lead at jitters, and I think I even came back in the WSG meeting. This was going on once. It was a crazy night if you were there. But that means I had my hand in so many different communities all around campus, so many people who are a part of different majors, a part of different colleges, a part of just different aspects of campus life, specifically the different aspects of academic life. So a lot of times I was able to talk to students and ask students what their academic concerns are. Specifically as well, my time as a peer mentor with New Student Seminar, I would be able to help students who have academic concerns. There was times where students didn't know what resources were available to them, and through those roles that I've had just in academic affairs and also just having my hand in so many different aspects of student life, I was able to help students achieve their academic goals.
Any other questions? Deputy Speaker Trees.
What do you foresee being the biggest hurdle you'll have to jump across during your time as Director of Academic Affairs?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, and it's kind of a question that Abby and I have been asking this entire year. We've been going around to different departments, different colleges, simply asking, what are you working on? How can we help? What can we do? And there's kind of, I would say, 3 different things that come to my mind. One of them is the library laptop service. So if you didn't know, the library offers rental laptops to students that students can use throughout the semester, throughout the academic year. And there's only a certain amount of laptops, and we found this year the library ran out way quicker than normal. So some students on campus do not have access to technology whenever, 24/7 access to technology. There we go. So I've been kind of working on different ways to fix this issue, and so I'm hoping to partner with some nonprofit agencies that I was able to work with over the summer to help fix that issue. So that's definitely a hurdle, just kind of collaborating university departments and then also outside resources. That communication is going to probably be a bit difficult, but I'm excited for that challenge. Additionally, Abby and I have been talking about Canvas requirements requiring faculty to include Canvas assignment dates. Sometimes there is an assignment due, and that assignment does not show up on your Canvas, and then you miss the assignment, and you're like, oh no. I know it's happened to me. I know it's happened to a lot of other people. So we're talking and collaborating with Faculty Senate hopefully to have that be a requirement for faculty. So it helps just clarity throughout the course as well. So I think those are definitely going to be two challenges.
Any other questions? Could another idea be a balance between doing online? No, you know what? I'll say that at the meeting.
Let's phrase this question. Let's totally not that.
Would you be willing to say a balance could be equal amount of writing assignments to Canvas assignments? Meaning, I remember there's almost every single class is on Canvas and everything is done on Canvas. Wonder if we could have a balance between Canvas and not using technology, so we don't have to use technology every single moment of our day, and actually try to use more assignments that could be done in person or together in a classroom in a way.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an interesting option that we can definitely look into. I will say there are probably definitely going to be some hurdles if we do decide to go that route that we would have to go through. However, I'm open to looking at any options. So if you have any options that you think could help students in the academic affairs section, please let me know. And I'm definitely into looking into that and figuring out if that's a viable option.
Any other questions? Seeing none. With that, we'll move to a roll call vote. A vote of aye will be a vote in favor of approving the candidate. A vote of nay will be a vote against. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, if you could please call the roll.
Senator Dewitt,
Oh, aye.
Senator Lane,
Aye.
Senator Weaver,
Aye.
Senator Majors,
Aye.
Senator Marty,
Aye.
Senator Strickis,
Aye.
Senator Purnell,
Aye.
Senator Reber,
Aye.
Senator Reyes,
Aye.
Senator Schwarzhandel,
Aye.
Senator Thompson,
Aye.
Senator Vanderhyde,
Aye.
Senator Wheaton,
Aye.
Senator Carter,
Aye.
Senator Janetti,
Aye.
Speaker Wilson.
Aye. Wonderful. With that, it is my pleasure to announce to you all that Howard Dumas, the newest Director of Academic Affairs elect. Appointee, Olivia Gross. With that, we're on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Jenny Lang.
I will keep it brief. Scrooge runs through Wednesday through Saturday. There is a matinee performance on Wednesday for students at 10 a.m. Tickets are $12. You need a student account if you want to buy them online, otherwise you can buy tickets at the door. Also, if you are interested in filming any TikToks with the PR committee, we are trying to film this week, either Wednesday or Friday. If you can come, please do. The more TikToks we have in stock, the better.
Director Schmidt.
Student Affairs Committee is not meeting this week.
If you have questions about SUPAC, the best way to get a most complete answer is SUPAC@u.edu.
Senator Purnell.
The Political Science Student Association is doing a board game night on Wednesday. So come see me if you want more information.
Where? Advisor.
The men's wheelchair basketball team will be playing at the Williams Center Saturday the 21st, and Friday the 21st and 22nd is Saturday. They host games at 10, 4 on Friday, and 8 a.m. and noon on Saturday. Found it.
Please submit your committee report to us tonight. If you don't do it, I'm going to be emailing you all week. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Good ones.
And signatures, Friday noon, unless I email you a different time.
Any other announcements? Going once, going twice. Seeing none of that, we're on to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Senator Major.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Senator Lieber. Can I get a voice vote?
Acclamation.
Any opposed? Seeing none, right here at 10:25. Are we still filming this thing?
Yep.
What?
No?
Hey, I'd like to be a part of the bill to help out Lynn.
Oh, why does that binder weigh so much? I have a copy.
Wait till next board.
It's Tuesday.
We will be meeting with them.
Yeah.
Follow up with senators.
Good night. Oh, Sal only has to work for an hour.